I thought this was a very thoughtful question, because to me, this is the question of, do we continue this fight even after Trudeau's gone? Is Trudeau being gone the end of the fight? And I wanted to bring Vesper on for this discussion. So without further ado, let's have the man here now. Vesper, thank you so much for joining me and coming in willing to converse about this exact topic.
Oh, man, dude, you're welcome. And I almost didn't make it today. I got clobbered. I was playing football. I think somebody almost took out a rib. But I took some pain medication.
Look at you, though. Man. Since the last time I had you on, you're not even the same. You shed a guy. Like, you shed a person.
I dropped.
You're half the man you used to be.
I've dropped close to 65 pounds. And
holy cow. How'd you do it?
You know what? That don't happen. Magic.
Okay, we're not going there. Magic.
I mean, we're living in Canada. Anything can happen.
Wow.
Which you evidently demonstrated for the past hour.
Yes, anything can happen. Just insane. Anybody who didn't catch that, go watch the stream where I was talking about all of that. I'm not getting into it here. But Vesper, okay, so you've done amazing work. Like, I'm talking amazing work. Your graphics are fantastic. You're no amateur. Let's just say that. And you've really you have a great way of reaching people's sentiment that they have in the moment, and especially on particular things that are happening in the news, things that are happening that the news doesn't want to talk about, things that are happening on social media, and you've come at it from a very interesting perspective, an interesting angle where most other people don't do this. You don't care about your following. You don't care about getting any of that stuff. You're on a mission. You want the liberals out, and you're telling people, steal my stuff, get it out there, and that's what you've been doing for about 2 years now.
It's actually funny. Somebody posted to a recent gift. By the way, I'm doing this it's not self-promotion. It's so that you guys can steal everything before these guys are gone, these clowns, and the clownverse ends. At least you can know where to go. So that's why I put that there. But it's funny, somebody, after a recent post, wrote something, a hero of the people. And I said, no, I'm not a hero. I'm just another Canadian who was shamed and blackballed and given plenty of motivation. That's how I like that. So I agree with you. Really, there's no better way to give motivation to people that are skeptical, thinkers, critical thinking, people that can think for themselves and would like to get the data before they make up their minds. But when someone forces me or blackballs me or tries to shame me, that's a good source of motivation for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, were you motivated. I mean, just your ability to pull like clips that you can't even find on the internet. I don't know how you get this stuff. You find it, you mash it up, you put it together, and it is so damning. It's amazing. It's great. But now we're at a crossroads.
Well, that's why I thank you for reading that. I should have never put that up because nobody was going to say, yeah, dude, good luck. Go have a vacation. I literally got like, no, we need to keep fighting. And I'm like, oh, man, I shouldn't ask that question. I should just...
That's not what I said. Oh, yeah, I'm going to read what I wrote.
No,
Read what I said. Because you and I are friends, right? So I know this, and I'm saying this legitimately. And I said, I'd say keep fighting, but you'll have to consider what motivates you. If you feel that you've accomplished what you set out to do, then that just might close the chapter in your life. But you have a particular set of skills, you can rejoin this fight anytime you want. Like, you're welcome back anytime. Do what you gotta do.
It was precisely the kind. Two others said what you said, and I thought that was precisely a well-balanced way of addressing it. I love that you want me to, but you're also looking at it like, dude, I mean, I don't know if you showed the stats when you were reading that, but the stats are mental. You know how mental and manic I was. I should have been mad.
11 million impressions. Like it's
Like I was one guy. I had conservative people block me because they're like, dude, you are just like we can't go anywhere on X and we're just seeing your post. I'm like, yes, because I don't care about followers and I don't care about monetization. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want eyeballs. I want everyone to see this is the hypocrisy that we're dealing with on a daily way. But the thing is, I wanted to add the element of comedy because mockery is how you take down somebody that thinks they're very serious when they're really a joke. And you've known this all along in our friendship. I'm really good at
absolutely. I think this is why we hit it off so well because that's
Oi!
I mean that's the approach that I take. I think making fun of people, knocking them down a peg. I mean, I've worked in the trades my whole life, and when you work in the trades, this is what we do to each other. We rib each other, we knock each other down a peg. Don't let your ego get too crazy because then you're just being an idiot. You'll lose your mind and then you make mistakes, and that's what we don't want in a team, right? We don't want that in a team, especially when you're talking about safety stuff. I work on cars. For people that don't know this, I'm an automotive mechanic. There's people's safety in my hands. So yeah, we rib each other, and it's a way of knocking people down a peg. And if it's your adversary, it's a great way to knock them down a peg so that they come back down to earth, and you can then possibly have a dialogue at the end of the day, or if not, get rid of the guy.
And really, that's why I was like at this point, and it really wasn't like, oh, y'all hate me. I don't care. I really don't. I care about you people. I don't care about like everyone in the chat. I care about everyone fighting for freedom. Everybody that believes in their inalienable rights. I believe in all that. What I don't care is about the popularity aspect of it because that's not what I wanted. What I wanted was, and you were the first one to give me a platform. So I'm giving you kudos on that. You were the first one to say, hey, this dude is making stuff. It's cool. Look at it. And you kind of got the traction going. And I had a chance to say, because I charge a lot of money for the stuff that I make. And I'm not talking about the comedy videos. That's actually just for fun. I'm saying like the animations, all that stuff. I wanted it to like, I saw what the liberals and the NDP were doing, and I just saw that the conservatives were just making corny things. Conservatives are just very, conservative. And they don't fight dirty. Like, you're getting in a boxing match with a guy that, like, has lead in his gloves and is throwing, like, you're putting glycerin on his face so that you can't punch. They're fighting dirty. And the conservatives at that time, remember, I had started when you met me, there was no Pierre Poilievre. We were still under O'Toole, remember? And so Mr. Debonair, Mr. I don't know how to properly lead a party to fight against fascist, socialist / Marxist ideologues.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't care anything about the conservatives at that time.
No, me neither. Me neither. They were milquetoast. They were bland. That's it. Okay. And we had a discussion earlier this week, and we'll cover on where Canada is going. The main reason why I felt like to ask that question was because, like, they're done. They're done. The NDP's done. All over the world, lefties are dropping like flies. Everybody that's
crazy.
A socialist is, because let's face it.
Well, and even right-leaning candidates that were supposed to come in and be right-leaning, like Phony Maloney in Italy, she's down in the polls because people are like, really, you're supposed to be the person that comes in and fixes all this, and you're doing nothing. You're just going along with everything.
So we're gonna have two conversations, time permitting. We're gonna have a conversation about Canada and where Canada sits with everything that's happening globally. I hope that that's okay with you to cover this.
Yeah.
As far as Canada is concerned, and I expressed my opinion to you, and I hope people that watch this channel like understand where I'm coming from. I've been reading enough, and maybe it's just my, curiosity. I'm curious like a cat, that whole joke. I read the criminal code the way I read the Merriam-Webster dictionary when I'm in the toilet, type of thing. Like I just read things that are innate that nobody would read, and I do them ad nauseum. And I find things that are incongruent. And what I came to realize after 2 years of bombarding, spamming liberals, conservatives, being hated by some conservatives for spamming, being hated by some liberals for spamming, and all the I realized that it was never really. The more I dug into it, was that it was never really the party that was the issue.
really don't like people
In Canada, as I read our Commons laws and I combed over them, and you know me, right? When I go into it, I go deep into it, and I go over it with a fine-tooth comb. I realized that our mechanisms of governing this country, they're really screwed up. And they're not just really screwed up. Okay, so I point at the liberals. And I hope a conservative MP is watching this tonight, because it's really important that I highlight this. I point at the liberals constantly about how stupid they are and how stupid their arguments sound, and how, just like based on the videos that you said, it's self-evident that you're all hypocrites and liars, because I could literally pull anything out of anywhere to show people that you're lying. The problem is that we had 9 years of Harper when he had a super majority, and none of these laws, like the cost of an ethical breach. Let me just stay on that point. Why did you not amend, since you had a super majority, and raise the bar much higher for an ethical breach? Well, it probably was not in your best interest to do this, or maybe you didn't feel it was important enough. What's the cost, by the way? I think you know better than me. What's the cost of having an ethical breach? It's like $1,000,
$500 fine or something.
Yeah. So you work with the Aga Khan. Maybe you get kickbacks in the millions, and because you found to broken ethics violations, you have to pay $500. This is the joke.
Essentially, that's it. You don't get removed from office. You don't get discredited. You don't nothing. You just walk away from it. $500.
If you did this at a regular job, you'd be fired. If they found out,
you would be arrested.
I'm not going that far.
Well, you wouldn't come back. Yeah, right.
Let's say you took a little bit of money out of the cash one day. You just needed $5. You'd still get fired, right? And they tell you to pay.
Yeah, they're not going to arrest you over it. Yeah. They'll deduct it from your pay. You're gone.
So let's just talk in Canada. Is the problem a party problem? Now, I am a populist. Okay, just so that everyone knows that. I'm a conservative, but I'm also a populist, in that I believe that a nation, the citizens are the ones that the people we elect are supposed to be listening to. What has happened is that the mechanisms that are built have created a cocoon of indemnity for everybody that is in government. We keep saying the words accountability, and there's these laws. Dude, there are laws. I'm going to share one law, okay? And this is probably going to make you laugh, okay? Do you know, and I have to look at it, okay? Did you know that from 2003 to 2018, you could look it up, Section 365 of the Criminal Code of Canada. So this is into Trudeau 2018, pre-COVID. Everyone who fraudulently pretends to exercise or to use any kind of witchcraft, sorcery, or an enchantment or conjuration, undertakes for a consideration to tell fortunes, or pretends to sell his skill or knowledge for the occult or crafty science to discover where and wherein manner anything that is supposed to have been stolen or lost may be found, is guilty of offense punishable by summary conviction. If you did practice witchcraft, that was actually in our laws, and it's been repealed. That's the joke that this criminal code is. Look it up. Everyone look it up. It's been repealed, but it's Section 365, okay, of the Criminal Code.
365, that means it was written recently.
But it's been repealed. It's been there since 2003 to 2018, okay? By the way, here's another one. that you're gonna find super funny. 2003 to 2018, again under Trudeau, no dueling allowed.
Okay.
Everyone who challenges or attempts by any means to provoke another person to fight in a duel is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment to a term not exceeding 2 years. That's Section 71.
So you're challenging someone to a duel.
Remember back in the day with the duels? That was in our criminal code. It was in our criminal code for 20 years. There is no overhaul. People are wasting taxpayer money on, I don't care what party anymore.
Okay.
I'll call it my party. Pierre, I'm looking right at the camera. If you come in and I personally do not begin to see you immediately work on the laws that govern parliamentarians, forget the dueling thing. That's funny. I actually think you should have left that there. That would have been really funny. But if you're going to come in and not fix the laws that govern parliamentarians, to me that's suspect. And it means you don't want to set a precedent.
Please.
And I begin to start doubting. So, okay,
No,
thank you for
thank
the
you.
carbon tax. Okay, thank you for all these things. But it's important.
If they follow through with that, and that's where
telling
my
you-
concern comes in.
Yeah, you and I are on the
Okay.
same page here. I'm giving
Okay.
you no more than
Okay.
a year. Forget the low-hanging fruit,
I
as
agree.
Andrew Scheer called it, the carbon
Love
tax.
y'all.
I'm
Love
saying
y'all.
you need to
You're so handsome.
completely from the ground up recheck the entirety of what governs parliamentarians, not Canadians. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm curious. You said the Conservatives are your party. That's your party.
Yeah, well, my party. I am a conservative. I joined the
So
conservative.
like you joined the party.
I'm a member.
A friend of mine gave me a pretty funny acronym. It's CUNT, Conservative Until No Trudeau, and that's
No, but let's be honest.
so Canada's full of them apparently.
Listen, let's be honest. And you know me as somebody that is a strategist and a marketer. Okay. I didn't want to jump into it right now, but and we've said this on the previous stream. It's not so much that Pierre is winning; it's that the Liberals are so stupid that the alternative is better.
Yeah,
People have
Any
to factor
alternative is
this in. Well, that's it. You have to factor this in, right? That if you have a clown and then you have a man in a suit, and the guy keeps clowning around, ipso facto, no matter what this guy says, as long as he's wearing a suit, I'll take him more seriously.
Yeah.
Okay. So all the clown stuff, like, I don't know, did you watch what happened with Jag Nee when the reporters went completely savage on him with the questions, like, why are you still propping this guy up? Like, after the NSACOP report and everything, and this guy, like, he literally was in Quam mode. I'm going to calm down, not raise my voice, and act like as if none of this affects me. I'm just very troubled by it. And he called, I'm troubled by the leadership of Justin and Pierre. Pierre's not a leader, bro. He's not running the country. Okay? So let's just get something clear. You're still propping this up. And it's become clear that y'all don't care about your brands. You guys don't even care that you're going to have a job after this. You know how many MPs leave and then go work somewhere else in some other company? They already got their connections. They can work somewhere else. So from where do we go? Because that was initially what happens. Trudeau's gone. What happens? Well, I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to have a fatigue moment. It's like the stages of grieving. You know, first we were in denial when they did the mandates, the COVID, all that stuff. Then we went into some kind of anger or bargaining. Like, come on, it can't be that bad. And then we went into grief, and then we're back into like anger. But there's a fatigue that's going on, and I think even if Trudeau leaves, that's not going to fix the sentiment in Canada, because what Trudeau and the Liberals have done, and you mentioned this before from Yuri, was it Yuri Bezmenov who talked about this, the demoralization of
the demoralization. Yeah, that's absolutely.
Can you explain that to people a little bit more? You do it better than I do. What was this whole thing?
So Yuri Bezmenov, for people who don't know who he is, he was a KGB Soviet defector, Like, he wasn't just a Soviet defector; he was a KGB asset, and he was involved in espionage, and not the pretty espionage you hear about in Hollywood movies with like micro cameras and little guns that go pew pew. No, he was like actual espionage, where they would infiltrate, apparatus, so they would infiltrate different parts of society in order to bring in what they called ideological subversion. And he defected from the Soviet Union. He realized that communism's terrible, free enterprise is a way better concept, and free, fair, open societies are the better way. And he came over, he said, you guys need to learn about this, because this is going to destroy the West. It's absolutely going to destroy the West. And he talked about how ideological subversion it sows a seed in society in particular areas, and then it spreads like a cancer. And this is the whole idea. And for the first stage of it is demoralization. You want to demoralize the people so that they don't feel that the society that they live in is a good society, and that they want something else. And then next comes, the following steps, which inevitably end in revolution, and then all the revolutionaries are disposed of, so that they can bring in the next system of governance. And this is not what we want. We want to maintain a free, fair, and open society. And he was warning about the signs of it, and man, was he accurate about it, and even down to the T of how the ideologically subverted individuals that will probably come out of academia and entertainment. He said, it'll get to a point where it'll get so absurd that outside observers would think nobody would believe this, except that is the point. It'll get so absurd that it becomes a marker of ideological purity. If you don't go along with the absurd, even though you see it as absurd, you won't be seen as ideologically pure, and you'll be marked for removal, cancellation. All of this stuff is coming true. So, Yuri Bezmenov is a profound character that went on tour in the 1980s to tell everybody about this stuff, and most people are just learning about it now. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, and now, so let's talk post-Trudeau, okay? But before we do this, I'd like to talk some marketing jargon that might set the stage, if it's okay with you. There is a concept in branding that is called the halo effect. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I'll explain.
Yeah, no.
I'll explain it. It's a form of co-branding, and what happens if you co-brand properly or co-brand improperly. Now, initially, you had Trudeau and the Liberals, and they became a co-brand. The problem is he's been in office for so long. And you know how you see on X and other social media, like Canada is not a serious country, Canada's become a clown show, Canada this. It's not, I mean, people are saying this because of this government. What's happened is there's been a subconscious tether to the country now, where the Canadians, while they love their country, feel it's not being represented properly on the world stage. So Edward Thorndike, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to.
Oh, so kind of like socialized medicine in Canada. So people always say like it's become
things like that.
Well, Canada for decades has been synonymous with socialized medicine. Like Canadians alike would say, you'd say, things are not so great here, but then they would reply always with defense saying,
right,
at least we have socialized medicine.
Right.
And that was always a thing.
You see how there's a tether that's created? So this was a very evident psychologist. He was in the 1920s. He coined the term the halo effect that effectively described the process in which humans develop a biased perception. Business owners and marketers can create leverage, awareness, and the halo effect by associating their businesses with other successful brands. Does that make sense? You're creating an effect of association by brands. Once Trudeau is gone,
right? So, can I give an example, perhaps?
Go.
I'm in the automotive world, and a lot of automotive manufacturers they'll often attach their brand to another brand that makes parts for that for that company. So, for example, like Dodge has their Mopar lineup for parts. GM has AC Delco. This is a thing that a lot of car manufacturers have, so that mechanics or parts people, when they're buying their parts, they go, oh, this is a GM, I need to buy AC Delco parts. Like, that's the genuine part.
Right. So while this is a joint venture between these two companies, the way you co-market and promote this union is very important. The liberals have been promoting Trudeau. So funny. I can't tell. Is Trudeau promoting Trudeau, or are the liberals promoting Trudeau? Or is Trudeau promoting the liberals? Nobody knows anymore. But what's happened is, because of the color red, and because of the maple leaf, and because he says Canada, and because he's a laughingstock, and because he keeps saying stupid things because he's a narcissist, what ends up happening is that Canada gets this bad reputation. Now you can literally take, and okay, I'm not going to be blasphemous here, anyone short of Jesus Christ and put him like second to Jesus in command of Canada, and Canada would still be suffering the reverberations of the damage caused by this branding that's happened into the minds of people. So Pierre is going to come on the scene. I have no doubt he's going to be a better solution than Trudeau. But the problem is that the damage to people's psyche, the wedging that has occurred that Yuri talked about, that by inversing reality and causing people to think that what is absurd is normal, and that if you call what is normal, it becomes absurd. This kind of subversion has occurred to such a degree that a lot of us fell for it. And a lot of us fought back against it in a good way, and some people in a bad way. But the whole idea was to trigger you. It's like provoking you into a fight. Have you ever heard of the comedian Bill Hicks? Bill Hicks described how the United States is the most warmongering country in the whole world. And the way they do it, he did it in joke, is that the U.S. just shows up to a country and throws a gun at its feet and says, pick up the gun. And the guy on the other is like, I don't want any trouble, mister. And the guy is like in the Jack Palance voice pointing the gun at him. Pick up the gun. You heard what I said. And it's like, look, everyone sees I'm not doing anything. He picks up the gun and then he gets shot. We were provoked. The last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, all the liberals have been doing has been provoking what Canada has stood for fundamentally for hundreds of years. Even under Chrétien, even under any liberal
You will not. You'll never see what's happening.
Nobody has, for me, nobody, and I'm not that big of a fan. I respect it, but Jordan Peterson captured precisely what is the problem in Canada in an illustration. He said if you have one key to the whole house, it is much easier to get in and make the changes that you need. Like, in other words, a thief would come in and steal what he needs and then get out. There's just one door with one key. The Canadian government has so many keys and doors that literally, careful while the others going to be walking in. He's going to have to ramp through and make we need this change. That's going to take a year. We need this change. That's going to take another year. Oh, we're also going to open the SNC investigation again. That's 2 years. We have an RCMP that takes forever. Everything is purposely designed, the mechanism. Like I said.
So there's no way that have your melee.
Oh, fuck. Please, spare me.
No.
This is so boring.
Simple answer, no. There's because for you to reverse all these things for you to reverse, they've created dependencies in the law. You understand, like by acts. That this act stands on this act, but you have to reverse this act with this act.
You don't think they did that in Argentina as well? You don't think that this?
Yeah, but are we Argentina? Are we really Argentina? I'm using. I'm sorry. Let's just address this. I'm born in a third world country.
Oh, really?
Lebanese are not like Canadians in culture, right? They are typically.
Incidentally, Northern Perspective was in the chat earlier. It said that you're not allowed to say Lebanese in their chat. Apparently, it's a banned word. I don't know.
So get this. We're in all seriousness. I shared pictures with you where I was when I was born into war and how I had to run my life and hide in bunkers and yada yada yada. And many of the stuff that people see on TV, it was par for the course for a couple of years until my dad said, "Yeah, you know what? Probably the next person's going to kill us." So so it took him maybe 3 years to come to terms with the fact that shelling our homes is probably time for us to leave. So when that happened, you needed to see the state of the culture. They were naturally combative people. You understand? Like they were.
That's Jack Mo.
The gloves were off. Nobody cared. Like regular people had guns. Like it's bizarre. The amount of imbalance that occurred in my country because of whatever was happening in the Middle East caused so that people just completely went any way they needed to go. We have a multitude of presidents assassinated while giving speeches. The mentality of that kind of a people is not the same mentality of people that go to Timmy's, enjoy their Starbucks, they like watching hockey, they go to the Olympics. You understand what I'm saying? We come from while very kind and very generous, we come from a barbaric environment. We're constantly looking out for if we're going to die, are we going to get hit, are we in the war moment? There's literal sirens in Lebanon. I don't know if you know that. Like to tell you, like, hey, everyone go and hide or go underground. Okay? So, the mentality...
I did not know that. That's actually very scary.
Like this. And I'm not saying every country is like this, but when you go for this, to Canadians who are decent, hardworking, bug nobody, do your work, do your thing, it's a free country. That's why we came to Canada. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why we came to Canada. But when you undermine this and now start telling people how to think, how to talk, and at the same time contradict yourself consistently and stupidly, and then put a gag order on the public budget officer, then the CRA says, yeah, we're not going to investigate all the money that's gone, the billions of dollars we handed out. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, at some point, what's going to happen is that Canadians are just going to argue and maybe just get really pissed off and vote and think they're going to vote this out. This is not going to get voted out. The system, I don't know, who's that new guy that just came in? Was it for Venezuela? Who was the new guy that, it's not Venezuela, there's a new guy that everybody's talking about that he came in and arrested all the gang members, arrested all these people.
Oh, is that El Salvador?
Yes. So this guy comes in unilaterally, does all this. Do you think that can happen in Canada? I'm asking your opinion. I mean, you know enough about our government. You've been reporting about it for years. Do you really think that
No.
one guy, two guys can walk in and suddenly, yeah, forget all these laws that we've set up, forget all these acts, we'll wipe this thing clean, and we're going to start like this?
I do think that it can. I do think that
I
it
don't.
can, but it would take like what we know of as a supermajority.
I know you think that you're very
For
naive.
example,
Like,
if there was a supermajority in government, they would. It's basically carte blanche. They can.
You still have to pass
Mm.
things. You still have to pass things through. There still has to be committees. The engine is so slow. Remember, I told you this the last time we met. The CEO once told me that you can have the same mass in a whale and in a large school of fish, and for it to turn the fish same weight, they turn faster. Things in Canada, you have to rescind acts. You have to appropriate this act. Then you can put this law in. Now, things like carbon tax, that's going to be easy. I'm telling you, these are easy stuff. The real issues is there is not enough laws that are aimed at parliamentarians and protecting Canadians. We thought the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was supposed to protect us. They use that like toilet paper. I'm sorry. No disrespect to
Yeah,
the
no, it's
Charter of Rights and laws. They used it like it didn't exist. Man, the
Well,
guys
there's no respect or disrespect to it.
They make laws.
It's just indifferent. There's no.
They make laws.
Yeah.
They don't follow. I remember I sent a message, and I won't mention who, but to a senator, and he responded. He was a very kind senator, and I said, "Is there a reason why the police are not arresting men walking around completely naked in a parade? Completely. It's against the law." And he said, "We can't do anything because it's not our government, and if we say anything, we're gonna be portrayed as bigots." The government of today is not enforcing its laws. An
What?
overhaul of these
What,
laws
Bobby?
is one thing. Holding parliamentarians to account is really where I believe, this is my opinion, you need to reevaluate the Our Commons laws and make it so that if you, I don't want to swear on your channel, but if you even think of doing something that is like deleterious to other people, if there is a slight perception of conflict of interest, your penalty is not $100. It's $100,000. It's $100,000 and you're kicked out. Like zero tolerance for stupidity anymore. And if people can't do this, if
Barred from public office and that kind of thing. Like,
yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I'm talking about you need to take it to the point where if you screw around with the people of Canada, Pierre has to do this to his own party. He needs to start in his own party. And you know, I'll give him credit. So this Ed Sakal report comes out, and at least they stood up and said, "Hey man, put out the names. We don't care if there's people in our party. Put it out. We'll call them out."
he said on Andrew Lawton's show, he was on Andrew Lawton's show, and Andrew Lawton asked him, this was a long time ago actually, I mean, in terms of news, like it being months and months ago, that's a long time. But yeah, Pierre was asked, like, if it turns out that there's conservative MPs, what would you do? And he's like, they're gone.
What, Bobby?
They're not just gone. I believe Pierre, with Brock and all these people, and you know how Northern Perspective covers these people, these guys would actually go after their own party. Now, again, are they saviors? No. I just told you the problem is not parties. If they don't rescind or fix the laws that govern parliamentarians, we're right back to a hope and prayer. That's really what it is. Supermajority doesn't, look, it gets you doing things faster, but it doesn't guarantee you that the laws to protect Canadians from fascist ideological mental nut jobs is going to work. Pierre has to create the precedent. I will hold myself accountable, and this is how I will hold myself and everyone in my party accountable. It is now written into law. And then, if there is a way kind of like when power in the people's hands, man. We have no power other than our MPs, but we don't know if our MPs are captured. Look at Jack Mead. You think Jack Mead represents every NDP here? Most look at his
Or even Burnaby South. I mean, he's in Burnaby South. I know people that live in Burnaby South, and
He's
like
dropping.
he doesn't represent them at all.
He's dropping like a rock. He's been persistently dropping. He's had the lowest numbers of any NDP leader. The problem is that they get in office and there's nothing in the law to hold them to account.
What is there?
Section 223 of our common, section 2. Look it up. Any of you listening to me right now, look up section 223 of the Our Common, section 2. Do you know that the Speaker of the House still has the power to arrest somebody if there is credible evidence in the Parliament?
I do not.
Yeah, I remember you discussing this with me.
Like, this will never happen because what they've done is it's a dereliction of duty. They've handed it all to all the liberal judges that are now being appointed. And your Supreme Court judge is just, you know who he is? He's a liberal. No, ex-liberal.
Oh, of course.
Like, nobody understands this. That if here you come in, that's what happens. Now, globally, Canada's going to need about 30 years to regain any kind of respect. I think for business, we'll be able to do business quickly, but to regain the respect we had before this clown show called the Liberals and Trudeau, yeah, that's where
I think business-wise, I think it's going to be a difficult run because the conservatives would get in, and entrepreneurs would be like, "Yeah, I'm happy to come in and do business with you," but I'm pretty weary about paying for any substantial infrastructure due to the last government that was in. And we don't know if your government will be popular after the austerity measures that are necessary to perform. Are you going to be, is it going to be like Trump, where Trump comes in for one term and then here comes Biden to ruin everything again? Is that what's going to happen here against him? He has to do a bunch of stuff. Becomes unpopular because he lays off all
it doesn't matter. Millet, I don't know if you heard Millet's speech. Millet came up and said, "I'm sorry, it's going to be hard, but we're going to go forward with the plan that we're doing." He has to stand his ground. I hate austerity. Nobody likes austerity. But somebody broke something, and now I have to fix it. What are you going to do? I'm not going to keep printing money. I'm not going to make the country go bankrupt. So, look, I don't want to keep going on this. I think from my vantage point, I think I made my point clear. I don't think the problem is mainly party. The mechanisms of our government are so slow and so many doors and so many keys, and even with a supermajority, sure, you can pass a few laws quickly.
Oh,
But when Harper was
no, they're not dead.
in power for how many years? 9 years? In 2 years in power for 8 or 9 years. Why didn't he do anything? Why didn't he do anything? Why didn't he
You think
fix
it
the
was a happy
law?
corrupt? It was a happy corrupt Canada up until then. It just got more and more.
Yeah.
And Trudeau was the
Everyone's saying
precipice.
China and Trudeau. Dude, everyone's saying China and Trudeau. Listen, we had former head of C6 stand up and say, since Mulroney all the way until now, they have all known of Chinese interference. Like, we need to get over this. Like, Trudeau.
So economically, I was a fan of what Harper did. I mean, he really helped us out, not get hit so hard with the 08 crash that happened in the United States that affected so many other countries, all the way to Europe, all the way to Japan. It was pretty big. But Canada got through that pretty easily, actually, because of the good economic policies that we had at the time in Canada. That being said, he also tried marching us into the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which, thank God, didn't happen. And these are good things that they didn't happen. So, yeah, he was very much on board with these global trade deals and stuff that would have hurt Canadian businesses. That would not be good for Canada, these kinds of large deals. I'm much more of a fan. People might criticize me for being a fan of Donald Trump, but I'm much of a fan of his idea of, you want a trade negotiation? I'll go in and I'll trade with it. I'll make a negotiation with each individual country. That's what I'm here for. We don't need a blanket negotiation that covers all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, let's not be black-pilled. I hate black-pilling people. I'm a realist, and there's always a solution.
Well, this is what I'm saying. There is a solution with trade deals.
Right.
We don't have to have these. believe that one's probably the individual.
Pierre is gonna leverage LNG. Pierre is gonna start talking nuclear.
No.
We're gonna see an influx of money coming into this country. That's important. People are forgetting. Not that everyone here in your audience, I'm saying people in general forget that while Trudeau damaged the economy, he's also stifling growth. He wants a particular niche of the economy to grow, right? The climate agenda niche needs to grow, and so
Yeah,
we need to
every central planner has had these kinds of ideals. I mean, this is par for the course for a socialist, and the inevitability of where it goes. Yeah.
So as a Republican person that believes, and I am a conservative member, I'm giving the short rope. I want to see business come into Canada. I want to see the West strengthened again, which is the bread and butter of this country. I don't care what anyone says. I am in Quebec. You can say whatever you want about hydro, blah, blah, blah. The money comes out of the West. And as long as people understand this, that you don't limit and stifle and vilify that, you monkeypoxes. You don't do this. You get out of the way and you let them. And as long as if you don't stop this, then you're going to destroy basically a sector that holds up Canada. Dude, Mark Carney, I made a video. You must have watched that video on X. I did a video on Carney. You know, Carney in 2003 said Alberta is the breadwinner for Canada, and there's no way we can go without oil and gas. Fast forward 4 years, and him in the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization and blah, 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 blah. They all got on this whole climate agenda BS. And it's just bizarre because I have him on video saying we can't live without oil and gas in Canada.
No, we can't. We cannot. It's unbelievable. And why? It's just this doesn't make any sense. I mean, we can talk about that all night. I want to get to some of these super chats here. We've got Robert McFallon for $5 says Vesper is an absolute legend. You're both on the correct side of history. We'll appreciate that.
I love you, Rob. What's up, Rob?
Northern Perspective. Northern Perspective saying for $10. Thank you, Northern Perspective, by the way. Vesper is the hero Canada deserves, but not the one it needs right now. So they'll hunt him because he can take it, because he's not our hero. He's a Dark Knight. Oh, God.
Dark Knight.
Quoting films.
Batman. I am Batman.
Yutaka.
That is
You're
on my
Batman.
X profile.
You don't have the voice.
I don't need the voice. I don't need the voice. This is me being Wayne. So. I don't have to talk like that. I need to talk like that.
Yutaka for $2 says Security of Information Act Section 15.
Oh, fuck.
I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure what that is. And Chippy's Outdoors. Chippy's Outdoors member for 24 months. That's 2 full years now. That's crazy. Thank you for being a member for that long. It says, good evening, Clyde and Clydettes. Sing around with some wobbly pops. Happy Father's Day to all of us dads. Absolutely. Happy Father's Day to you, my friend. You're a tremendous father, always looking out for the safety and well-being.
Ew.
I don't know how you could get into a situation where multiple suicide bombings go off in the nearest capital city to this one, where multiple suicide bombings go off in a football match, in a rock venue, drive-by shootings, Kalashnikov attacks in cafes and restaurants, and that wasn't reported, or it just was mentioned, and we all got on with our lives. The public want to know that information. We want to know. I'm going to go to Paris next weekend. Is it a wise idea? Is it good to go or not?
You are about to watch Douglas Murray argue that terrorists shouldn't be starved of the oxygen of publicity.
But thank you. But I'm glad this isn't a debate format, because I think this question is so complex, and I think most of us have such contrary views on this. It's a very good thing that it's not set up as an either-or thing. First thing I would say, but I agree very much with what I was just said about that Cameron point. I entirely agree with it. It's absurd, indeed obscene thing for a Prime Minister of the UK to say that ISIS is next existential threat when it's no such thing.
That is a solid point from Douglas.
However, I do have to push back a little on something that Simon has already said. Terrorism can do serious damage, and as everybody knows, just from that one thing that's already come up twice this evening, the attacks in Paris in November 2015, it's
it still is doing damage. Still, the Parisian economy, the tourist economy is not recovered from that. It's still a city suffering.
I couldn't agree more.
I don't know how you could get into a situation where multiple suicide bombings go off in the nearest capital city to this one, where multiple suicide bombings go off at a football match, at a rock venue, drive-by shootings, Kalashnikov attacks in cafes and restaurants, and that wasn't reported, or it just was mentioned, and we all got on with our lives. The public want to know that information. We want to know, I'm going to go to Paris next weekend. Is it a wise idea? Is it good to go or not?
Another solid point by Douglas.
I have to say that we have to appreciate what the end point of Simon's point of view on this is. In 2013, when two British converts to Islam, two very radical young men, ran over in broad daylight in South London, in this city, ran over a soldier at home on leave from Afghanistan, Drummond Lee Rigby, hacked at his body in the middle of the road, tried to get his head off with machetes, and so on. Simon described that as a mundane act of violence.
Hold on a sec. Are you kidding me? Let's hear that again.
Simon described that as a mundane act of violence. Now, I don't think that is a mundane act. It was in your Guardian column at the time.
I'm sorry.
Anyhow,
It was a mundane act of violence.
but you see, for most of us, the general public, we don't think that the reporting of a soldier being decapitated in broad daylight by two such men is a mundane thing.
Certainly we don't. We'll come back to Douglas shortly. But let's hear what Simon Jenkins, one of Douglas's opponents in this debate, has to say about
For
terrorists.
fuck's sake.
They depend upon publicity. The multiplier of publicity is what makes the terrorism act terrorist. Otherwise, it's just a killing. That's why very few terrorist incidents occur in autocratic and dictatorial countries. They don't get any publicity. They get publicity where we give them publicity, and it's on that publicity that they feed. ISIS, interestingly, last week said they regard publicity as their nuclear weapon. It's the thing they rely upon to make their impact. We've become completely obsessed with them. Terrorism has been seized upon by the military defense establishment, effectively to boost their budgets.
That's quite some perspective. But let's hear more from him.
I simply think that the best thing we can possibly do is you cannot not cover news. And I'm sure tonight we'll discuss what this really means. You can't not cover news. You then hand the terrorist over to the much more terrorist thing, which is the rumour. You mustn't allow rumour to dominate news. But we mustn't over-exaggerate the significance of a terrorist incident. The BBC spent 4 days on the Nice atrocity. Obama comes over to march in honour of the Hebdo massacres. It was an appalling way of glorifying this particular obscenity.
Now, back to Douglas. Not only does he disagree with Simon on this, but he also gives a profound insight.
I think, by the way, that the censorship around terrorism already exists to an enormous extent in our societies. The media in this country and in America and elsewhere don't show anything like explicit images of the aftermaths of terrorist attacks. And there is a very good argument that actually if the public saw what those of us who've covered and seen attacks have seen, that their views on this would be a lot harder than they currently are, and that the media actually holds this back from the public, and that as a result the public are less enraged than they would otherwise be by this.
Douglas goes on to ask some deep questions.
But you know, if you support the motion tonight, how would you do it? How would you stop covering the terrorists when they carry out an attack in Paris tonight and kill 130 people and leave many more wounded for the rest of their lives. How would you do it? How would you do it in the age of the internet? It's plausible you could get a press regulatory body so rigorous that it stopped the remainder.
Are you having any laugh? Are you getting any laughing? If other people do, why can't you have a little fun?
Of the print press from publishing any information about it. People would go to the internet. How do you shut down the internet from covering this?
But Douglas wasn't quite done.
Now, having said that, there's one very important point on this, which is that obviously the press have to show restraint. And I want to give you two very quick examples in my life of the press clearly not showing restraint on this. And this is where there will be some unanimity on the panel tonight. In 2004, when the British-born man Ken Bigley was held hostage in Iraq by Abu Musab al-Zarqawi's group, many of you will remember this. There was a drip feed of information on an hourly and daily basis by Zarqawi's group.
That's right. Douglas tells us why.
And they knew, and we knew from the moment that American forces ended up getting into his compound, that his group were watching the British media like hawks, because Tony Blair was being personally held responsible by a man being held hostage with a knife to his throat. And if you remember, that man, Ken Bigley, was saying on camera, "I blame Tony Blair." And the British press were blaming Tony Blair. And there was a moment there where the combination of an extremist group and the British press effectively helping them could well have brought down a prime minister in a democratic society. He came very, very close at that point.
That is a solid point by Douglas. He goes on to give another example.
It was 10 years after that, in 2014, when Jihadi John, as he was called, Mohammed Emwazi, another British citizen, was executing, murdering, beheading people in the Syrian desert. I would argue that was another time when the British press needed to show restraint, and a lot of it did. You'll remember that The Independent ran a front page saying that we are not showing the photo of this. That may have been an extreme example, but the British press, once again on that occasion, the international press, were being used by that group to have this drumbeat of terror.
The host cuts in with a question for Douglas.
Well, so let me ask you, you bring up Jihadi John, and I think this is an interesting one. Why give him a nickname like Jihadi John? Why not call him by his name, Mohammed Emwazi?
Sure.
Why do we have to come up, the very idea of coming up with nicknames? And also I wanted to ask you about a distinction between covering ISIS propaganda and terrorist attacks. There's a big difference between running their videos of them with the black and white flag saying the Shahada and showing what happened in Paris, right?
Yes, there is. There's a very big difference between the two. And sometimes we fall into covering both as if they were the same thing.
Douglas's answer was direct and honest.
But as for that, the nickname point is a very good point. I'm slightly bemused by it myself. Of course, we didn't know his name was Mohammed Emwazi when we knew that he existed and he was the decapitator. So he had to be given some term, I suppose. I do think that the sort of weird jokiness of it is,
The Beatles, I think, coined the term in the British press.
I don't know why people do it. Maybe it's a coping mechanism about something very grotesque, and that you can sort of slightly laugh at it. I don't know. It doesn't seem very healthy to me. I've always thought that it familiarizes barbarism.
Now, the host turns to Simon to get his take on all of this.
So let me ask you, Simon, and we'll sort of have a bit more of a fluid chat now. But what you're essentially talking about amounts to self-censorship on a certain level. And I just wonder, does it confuse the role of the journalist at all? Because the journalist traditionally is not supposed to be a judge. The journalist is supposed to be someone who is a filter, who provides information to people who want to receive that information.
Now, hear his response.
This is quite unlike other forms of news. This is a form of, when you're covering a war, you're covering a war. In this case, you are a part of the story because that's what the other side wants you to be. And in becoming a part of the story, you are, as you said at the beginning, a part of the problem rather than the solution. And I just think what I'm saying here is I think for newspapers, it is no good simply saying we cover every story. Because in the first place, you have, as we've been saying, you have a decision to make about how intensively you cover it. I mean, do you fly Hugh Edwards out to Nice?
Let's keep listening.
You have a decision to make as to how intensively you cover the story. But I go
Yeah,
beyond
noticed
that
how I
and
got
say
them
you
all?
are now the story.
No, because we
Derek, to see the job for next week.
Yeah.
That you're gonna be my driver.
Gonna be what?
You're gonna be my driver.
Yeah.
We
Well, I'm
got
gonna be not just your driver. I'm gonna be all the drivers.
nice broomstick.
Thank you. I don't know why we didn't use this in the beginning.
Right.
I don't know why all broomsticks aren't this.
Because it's a $60 pole.
Seems like he's really excited to go on vacation.
Yeah. His daughter's so stupid.
Why? What?
Because his daughter, she calls him like, sometimes I drive on 0% in the car and it gives me like 20 minutes. So I thought that maybe going 30 seconds away from the house would be okay. So when I was at 1%, the car shuts off.
How's your fucking electric car now, you dumbass?
He's like, well, go on your app and text fucking them that problem. Hey, I took my car empty and then I ran out of power 30 seconds away from my house. What do you want me to do? Like, what do you want Derek to do? Like, go over here and pull out a plug of his fucking butt, spin your car and charge it?
Watch, they're gonna make her tow it.
No, they come right to your car with a charging station.
There's portable charging stations.
It's a portable mechanic for Tesla. You arrive with this little truck.
Yeah, but there's a charging station. Like he has
In
a
the truck.
portable charger.
In the truck. You got a generator.
So why
it's
would
a
it
gasoline generator to charge your electric car.
You know what? I'm saying nothing. I'm gonna keep saying nothing. And the day that everybody is like, "Hey, those electric cars were kind of a fucking bad idea."
No, nothing.
Yeah, people.
They're not there yet. Jesus. Not even there yet. I have to go see that lady because she has a leak on her thing, and it's like one of those metal siding chimney. And we looked around, and she had 3 guys: one roofing, 2 chimney guy, to like look at the thing and fix it. And we looked. Oh, it's caulking. I put some all over my pants still. And it was an obvious 3 little spot that they missed in the caulking job. I'm like, 3 professional company came and tried to fix that, and it wasn't. So the other guy put an old tarp and sealed the whole thing so it wasn't leaking anymore. It's a whole big like that. I'm like,
How did she pay them?
Oh yeah, she paid the 3 company to fucking do that. And she's like, oh no, I just want to tear down the whole thing. It's like, no, whoa.
No,
We're
but
gonna start by fixing your hole.
Have you seen that? What do you call it? The CDC Marketplace, whatever.
Oh. Time is it?
It's like what, like 2?
Okay, what's that at? It's 2:35.
Max drove you home?
No, Derek.
Oh, why did you drive you home?
Because everybody else is working. He told me, oh, we're going to put Pepe there on the grinding because I assumed that you don't want to do too much grinding. I'm like, oh, thank you, Derek. You're nice.
No, and Pepe deserves fucking bitch work.
Oh,
Till further fucking
so he
notice.
said about what he said about Josh. He's like, Josh, like as much as I'm trying to help him, I have to give him an advance every week, an advance on his pay. And the next day he doesn't have anything. He's freaking out because you want to be controlling. You want to be too controlling at work, and that's not a position that we're ready to give him. So he might be just leaving at some point because he thinks that's he's going to go for somewhere else. He's going to be able to have a job like that. But then Derek looked at him. He's like, doesn't have his cards.
Good luck getting an advance
You're not-
from a boss.
He's late. He's no, sorry, not lazy. He's lucky to have a job right now. Because
And to have a boss that's going to be giving you advances on your pay is like
Yeah.
non-existent. Like bosses don't.
Yeah.
At least not anymore. Like, okay, you guys are freaking out.
Who? The hats?
Idris,
Oh, you made yourself a cool juice? Movie.
Oh. Ugh. Alright.
Yeah, so I'm early today because we are postponing Montreal West job because in the next 4 days it's going to be 44 degrees and then it's going to be thunder fucking tropical
Dude,
showers.
fucking they're saying on the radio that is right now it is 20 degrees and by tomorrow it's going to be 40 degrees.
44.
That's a 20-degree jump.
Yeah.
In 24 hours. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know.
I've never even heard of that.
Me
Like,
neither. Me neither. Fucking crazy.
I lost my joint.
No, you didn't! Where's the cigarette?
I don't know. I was going.
Okay.
I was going frozen. I don't have weird dishes first.
Well, you don't have to go pick me up.
Yeah, that's true. Today's your lucky day.
Huh?
Probably Aunt.
Oh, because you almost squished it. And you
No, I said today's your lucky day.
Oh.
Freedom. Hey, close. Close. Why don't you turn on the air conditioner upstairs?
Open here?
Is it open? Did you open it recently?
Yesterday.
Okay.
Before yesterday.
Okay, here's what we'll do.
I love our house.
What?
I love our house.
We're gonna be here a while.
Yeah, good. I'm gonna move the day you're gonna be tired of it.
Huh?
I'm gonna move the day you're gonna be tired of it.
You're gonna get tired of my house.
There you go, good.
That was great. Big fuck you, my family. Their dream to live and become Westies, but like, that's why, like, Derek, I wasn't sure if he was full of shit or not. But after seeing like the amount of fucking DIY for the truck, whatever.
Mm-hmm. He sees from nothing. He came from not much.
Well, most people who lived in Verdun in those days, like even you,
What do you?
it means you were in severe poverty. Like Verdun used to be called Verdun for a reason.
Verdun.
Mhm.
Verdun.
but then it got all like bougie and fucking like gentrified. And I love that they tried to do that to St. Henry for the past like 3 decades, and then every time it just fails because people are like, there are homeless people who are like,
I remember the
no
time
shirt everywhere, all over.
where Fatal was. I'm not sure it was owned by Fatal yet. I think it was just an old textile factory that was closed down, and all of the windows were boarded. All of those buildings, big buildings, they were all boarded. When I was there.
Right.
Yeah, they were pretty much where the train track goes on the side of the river. There's a park. That old train track goes to the park. Anyway, I used to go with my sister where we go to the bike capital to the subway station.
Okay.
There's a little horseshoe thingy. We used to go check a tournament or shoe tournament.
Horseshoe. That used to be a game we used to play.
Yeah,
Horseshoe.
horseshoe. Yeah, they're still going on at that part.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling.
What's burning?
I say toast.
Toast? Smells like burnt toast.
Let's go get peanuts. Probably go to Walmart for them. They had a sign that says limited supply on the peanuts.
What?
I don't even know.
Could be.
I just ate them a bunch.
A treat?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe just ate them. I've never eaten them before.
No? I'm sorry. You just wanted salt in the corner?
Not a movie.
Okay. So you just wanted salt in the corner.
Okay. Where'd you go? The one you can. Hello. Here's the room.
I miss you,
You don't have to be here alone all day.
Ooh.
Mm. Mm. You're not gonna get some squirrels? Huh.
Fine.
You don't have to.
I don't want
You don't. Jeez. Woo! Keep back. Bye.
An athlete's mental and emotional condition is directly affected by.
It's so good stars, Mr. Speaker.
Oh yeah, Derek said that Josh wasn't smart enough to deal with people.
You have social skills. Like, you have amazing social skills.
And they don't listen.
You should have been. Yeah, but you can't make people listen. And the more you back off and let them kind of like make it apparent on the, like they'll do it on their own.
The more they regain their pride, the more identity fraud we see. The problem is being made worse from inside the Prime Minister's caucus. The Parliamentary Secretary of Northern Affairs recently said her government would recognize the constitutional rights of Nunavut, despite the court ruling differently. Johannes Lamb, President of Nunavut, has called for the demotion of the Parliamentary Secretary. Will the Prime Minister show his commitment to Inuit and protect legitimate communities from identity fraud?
Here.
The Honourable Minister for Northern Affairs. Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Member for the very important question. Our government is fully engaged to making sure that all Section 35 rights are.
His name is Dan Vandal.
With everybody who deserves Section 35 rights. We will continue engaging. We will continue talking to communities, be they First Nation, Inuit, or Métis, and we will make sure that Section 35 rights are respected. The Honourable Member from Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, in Union Bay on Vancouver Island, a massive ship full of toxic chemicals is being broken up in the high tide zone, in the same waters that half of BC shellfish come from. Recent tests show that this area has become a toxic wasteland with copper levels 15 times higher than they should be. Local government, First Nations, and the province are calling for the federal government to act.
That's what I did. Maybe I must have misunderstood. Like I must have heard it wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's what they said. I was like, that's impossible. Like, there's no way.
Heat stroke, okay. Side effect of heat stroke, okay.
A lot more people die of heat stroke than people die of freezing to death.
Our government is very aware of the environmental impact and community impact that abandoned ships can have for Canadians. Fisheries and Oceans Canada is committed to reducing the number of abandoned vessels, cooperating with port authorities and communities. DFO efforts have been ongoing since 2017. Over 580 dangerous ships have been dealt with. Following guidelines, we all have a role to play to ensure the safety of our maritime ways, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians from across the country are concerned about the rising levels of auto theft. This is an issue that our government takes very seriously, and we have taken meaningful action to combat it. Yesterday, our government announced the deployment of a mobile X-ray scanner in the GTA to combat auto theft. The scanner will enable the CBSA to recover even more stolen vehicles and help our law enforcement partners to crack down on crime. Can the Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions, and Intergovernmental Affairs tell Canadians what the action our government is taking in the GTA to combat auto theft?
Excellent. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank our colleague from Humber River, Black Creek. Yesterday's announcement adds to multiple measures our government has taken to counter auto theft and crack down on organized crime. The deployment of an X-ray scanner is an important step in combating auto theft and organized crime, not only in the GTA, but right across the country. The scanner will allow law enforcement to intercept stolen vehicles before they go to ports to leave Canada. While Conservatives were in power, they cut the CBSA, and their capacity to counter organized crime will continue to crack down on organized crime.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. July 1st, moving day in Quebec is fast approaching, and we are facing a disaster due to the housing crisis. The government, supported by the Bloc, has created this situation with its exorbitant inflationary spending. We are now seeing homelessness in places like Trois-Rivières, Rimouski, Rouyn-Noranda, and Sept-Îles. All these cities are in Bloc ridings. Will the Prime Minister and the Bloc commit to stop wasting taxpayers' money to alleviate the housing crisis? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been some time since we've reminded my colleague, the member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles, that 6 affordable housing units were built by his conservative leader over the course of his whole career as Minister of Housing throughout the country. In just his writing, 222 have been built, and in the coming days, we will be announcing more. In the very heart of his writing, would he like to invite me to tour those many housing units, many more than were built by his conservative leader? The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc voted for $500 billion in budgetary appropriations, contributing to the current housing crisis, and the Bloc voted with the Liberals against our leader's bill to make housing more affordable. And now, newspaper articles are telling us that homelessness is skyrocketing precisely in Bloc ridings. Quebecers are suffering and have lost confidence in this government and their Bloc friends. Will the government do the right thing and call an election now? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think we should
What we
stop
can do right
calling
now is
Zionists
go visit
Jewish.
some of the 222
They're not Jewish.
affordable housing units that were built in the
As far as I
past months.
understood,
In his
Jewish
writing,
and
the
Christians
hundreds
don't like
and
each other.
thousands that will be built
Start
in
calling
the
that
coming
cat
years
Nazis.
with the support of the government
What?
of Quebec.
They are. They're
That
Nazis.
doesn't
Like
compare
they're like
very
they're
favorably
terrorists.
to the
They're like
6 affordable housing
FLQ.
units
Like,
built by the
There's nothing
conservative leader,
terrorism.
the insulter-in-chief, because he calls
Yeah.
Canadian Quebec's municipalities
Sure.
incompetent. He only built 6 during his whole career as Minister of Housing.
because you're not doing
Honourable
things that
Member
serve
for
your
Bellechasse
citizens.
les
You're doing things that serve
Mr.
other
Speaker, after 9
countries.
years of
Like
this Liberal government,
for your
Quebecers are
own
living
gain. Like
in
that's
housing hell. The lack of affordable housing throughout Quebec is forcing many women to stay in violent relationships. Not only did the Bloc make the housing crisis worse by voting for $500 billion in budgetary appropriations, it also voted with the Liberals against the Conservative leader's bill to accelerate the construction of affordable housing. Can the Bloc and this Prime Minister stop imposing misery on Quebecers by voting against measures designed to improve their well-being? The Honourable Minister of Procurement. Public
That's the problem
Services.
with the word
Thank you,
minister.
Mr. Speaker. I wouldn't want to compare the record
oh, in French,
That's
dictator,
That's the
members
translator. That's problem
for
saying
Quebec.
minister.
dictator
In
is what
this
they say
number
in
is
French.
writing,
Like
there are
that's dictator.
250.
Like dictatorship.
It's a lot
Or
more
dictator.
than the 6 affordable housing
Well,
units
A dictator of a
Six,
phrase or a
Mr.
dictator
Speaker.
of a nation is the same.
built
It's a
by the
dictator.
member of Carleton,
Because it dictates
the
you what you
conservative
do, what you say.
insulter-in-chief, because he was so incompetent. That's what he built throughout his career all over the country.
Ah,
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord.
look at me.
It's being stalled. Just before second year,
Mr. Speaker, with 2 weeks to go before moving day, Quebecers are worried. Many of them have to look for new housing. In Saguenay, some families think they'll end up on the street because of soaring rent costs.
Just
Despite
start
this, the
squatting.
Bloc
Pick
and
a
the
house,
Liberals
start
voted
squatting.
against our common sense bill to make housing more affordable.
That's what you do in
The
Europe.
Bloc even supported the government and voted for the $500 billion
It's legal
in
to squat
budgetary
abandoned building.
appropriation.
It's gonna
that
take
contributed to the housing
longer for these
crisis.
buildings to waste
It will cost you
away
the vote
Yeah.
block.
than it'll take for
Especially
them
in
to come
Saguenay,
kick you
Lac
out of
Saint-Jean.
it. Like
When will the Liberals, supported by the Bloc, finally listen to us? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Bad news, Mr. Speaker, for the member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. 181 affordable housing units were built in his riding, but the good news is that 181 is 30 times more than the 6 affordable housing units built by the Conservative leader during his whole career as Minister of Housing throughout the country. 6 affordable housing units, Mr. Speaker. I know it's hard to believe, but that's the number. Fortunately, in his writing, there have been 181 over the past few months, and there will be more in the coming months.
Order.
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 oh yeah.
The Honourable Member for Titisville. Quebecers are rallying against the $145 million cut to our labor force training. The Government of Quebec and labour market partners have asked Ottawa to reconsider in a letter signed by the FTQ, CSN, CSQ, Conseil du Patronat, Chambers of Commerce, manufacturers, and exporters. All speak with one voice. The Minister of Labour was due to meet his counterpart today. Will he announce that he is cancelling the cuts? The Honorable Minister of Tourism. Yes, thank you. I thank my colleague for her question. Listen, it's extremely important that our government invest in training. We are making historic investments in training, and we will continue to work with businesses throughout Quebec. That's what we're doing, and we are collaborating very well with my colleague, the Minister of Labor.
Derek told me that you write me a letter from welfare, whatever, is going to start RE from next year. And he told me to look into a course.
They give without counting the cost when it comes to oil companies for untendered contracts to the McKinseys of this world. But they count their pennies when it comes to helping employ the unemployed, young people.
Because he said, so like that, nobody that went to school is going to be able to tell you what to do.
Their $145 million cut represents
16%
of federal labor transfers to Quebec. It doesn't make sense. The government must reverse course. Will it do so?
We don't need to count on other people to do shit for us.
Our government is making
Like,
record
Will scheduling
investments
the
to
thing,
create
like,
record
fuck it.
jobs,
Like, fuck
$50
that.
billion in the auto sector alone,
my hat.
creating tens of thousands of jobs.
I'll do
We
myself.
are also investing record amounts in skills training, billions of dollars each and every year. Labor market transfers to the provinces,
full
sectoral
conversation.
workforce programs,
So he was explaining to me how he's trying to get
$1 billion
French classes
supporting
to be able
annually
to go around in here and there, and then explain all those
no
details.
government has
Like,
delivered more for training and jobs than this.
I guess you did that in paper if you speak like that.
Is he not legal?
Huh?
Is he not legal?
It speaks, no, he is now, but it speaks, was supposed to be renewed and something happened because he was speaking French.
COVID happened.
Yeah.
It closed the immigration office. There's a bunch of Indian people who were like, my visa expired. I can't go home now, though. They can't go to the airport and get on a plane. They'll be arrested.
As the top 1%ers.
And then they really can't come back. Like,
How many family-run businesses are going to be unfairly taxed and face ruin because
they don't
of
want
this
them here anymore, though.
government's
They don't want
policy?
the Mexicans probably, but the Indians and the Chinese, they don't want them here.
Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of
They'll be
Finance.
stuck.
Thank
Screwed
you,
up
Mr.
like that.
Speaker, and I would invite my colleague opposite to look into the important small business tax exemption that is
I
also
feel the
coming
cold
into
air coming
effect.
from
But
upstairs.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to know why the Conservatives
Whoa.
slash the pensions of our seniors then ask the wealthy to pay just a little bit more. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the Conservatives why they would rather cut school lunches for over 400,000 children than to ask the 1% in our society
The Honorable Member from Niagara Falls. Speaker, the member should be speaking to Nick and his family, who recently sold their tourism retail business after 40 years in operation. The price they negotiated this past winter did not account for this surprise, massive, and unfair liberal tax hike they will now be facing. In fact, Nick writes, the sale was for the retirement of 4 families, and the extra loss of income that we did not anticipate is utterly unfair. Why is the Minister of Finance targeting small family-run businesses and ruining their retirement dreams?
They're retiring dreams. I have fucking life dreams, sir. I still have a life to live.
Continue to mock the
You're gonna
supports
die
we provide
soon.
small
What the fuck do you
businesses,
care?
and vote against all the supports we have provided with small businesses. We on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to support small businesses. And in fact, on this side of the House, we reduced small business taxes from 10.5% to 9%. We will continue to support small businesses and be there for them to start, grow, and scale their businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member from Battleford, Lloydminster.
Speaker, millions of Canadians are without a family doctor, and the shortage is even more severe in rural and remote communities. The carbon tax already punishes them for driving long distances when they have no other choice. And now the Prime Minister's job-killing tax on healthcare will make it even harder to find a doctor. Mr. Speaker, it's not fair that Canadian families have to go without a doctor.
This isn't
so my
fair.
question is,
Yeah,
how
we
many
know.
Canadians will lose a family doctor just to pay for this Prime Minister's out-of-control spending?
Another reason to stop him.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
another reason.
Mr. Speaker, and of course, asking for a more fair and equitable tax system where those that are the very wealthiest pay a little bit more in tax so that we can have monies for doctors and nurses and to make investments into our healthcare system is actually the answer, not the problem. The problem is conservative cuts. The fact that they want to attack our healthcare system with deep cuts that would create much worse problems. Of course, the
Yeah, but
world is
you
facing
liberals are
challenges
in
healthcare
power,
coming out of
so you
COVID,
can't
and what
just
we've seen in Canada
throw
is
the ball
leadership.
back to the
26
conservative. They're the
$200 billion
opposition. That's their job to do that.
and action across the board, Mr. Speaker.
Their job to criticize yours.
Member for Saint Laurent.
Speaker, this time 2 years ago, Roe v. Wade was overturned in the United States. The fear and uncertainty this has caused millions of women cannot be minimized.
That's my selling
It is a
factor.
reminder that
I was like, I might have to vote conservative, but I do want to take away abortion.
Conservative
I'm out.
MPs celebrated the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
I can't do that.
Stood committed
Like,
to
I'm
ensuring
saying that with
choice
a bunch of
for women
dumpster
remain a
babies.
fundamental right. If the
Well,
Minister
if a
of
woman
Women
wants to
and
get that
Gender
baby out of her,
Equality
she'll
shared
find
the
some way to get it out of her.
Okay, just abandon it when it's out.
That's what I mean. Like, they fucking, they'll dump it in their dumpster, they'll
Fierce
fucking...
advocacy. Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, Roe v. Wade was overturned in the U.S. and so many
If a woman
thought
doesn't want to
that
fight
was
it,
an
she'll find a way to
impossibility.
take it out.
But that taught us that vigilance everywhere
Like, I would have
is
fucking
imperative.
eventually done the same
This
thing, I
past
think.
weekend, I met Liz, a self-described old feminist in Thunder
And it's
Bay.
not being
Liz
cruel,
wanted
it's
me to
being
remind
fair.
Canadians that the right to an
Like a fair
abortion
chance.
is a human right and always worth fighting for. That's exactly what we will continue to do on this side of the House. That side of the House cannot say the same, Mr. Speaker.
Right, you cannot tell me what to do, my body.
The honourable member from Brantford Brent. This government's capital gains tax is killing jobs in healthcare, home building, small businesses, and farming. An agriculture producer in my riding is deeply concerned that this tax is undermining the profitability and sustainability in an already volatile business environment. Their current transition of ownership is severely impacted by these tax changes, rising input costs, and softening markets. The minister is raising taxes without even passing a law, which begs the ultimate question. How many more surprise tax hikes will this government spring on Canadians? Hear, hear.
Here.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would just like to make very clear one important point, and that is the changes that we have introduced in the budget are not going to affect the paychecks of Canadians. They just are not.
The main
If you
is out.
take home a salary, Mr. Speaker, anybody taking home a salary in Canada is not going to see a change based on what we have presented for the capital gains, Mr. Speaker. In fact, what we are asking is those who don't make a salary, who have their money working for them, Mr. Speaker, who make incredible profits on the investments that they sell, they will be paying a little bit more.
The honourable member from Charleston, St. James, Assiniboia, Heavyweight.
Anti-Semitism has become a plague on university campuses. Hamas sympathizers camping out at McGill are promoting the Revolutionary Summer Program, featuring images of keffiyeh-clad fighters brandishing machine guns. It's appalling, Mr. Speaker. Summer camps used to be about campfires and canoeing.
Oh, you guys.
After 9 years of this prime minister,
But it's a university, not a preschool.
Right? It must.
No, my favorite argument so far is like, there are people there who don't even, they're not even students. Like, gay? Do I have to be gay to go to a fucking gay rights protest? No. Like, it's a fucking stupid argument.
Condemns anti-Semitism. Mr. Speaker, we know that combating anti-Semitism and hate takes concrete action. That is why in this particular
Honestly,
budget, Mr.
I will pay for the taxi ride.
$273
You show me where. You show me who these people are that are saying fuck the Jews, they all need to die.
More than $200 million
It's not happening.
Anti-racism strategy. We've launched the Community Resiliency Fund. We're working with the Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to do everything possible to make sure we combat hate in this country and around the world. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Selkirk, Interlake Eastern.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs told CBC News last week that it was news to her that Russian warships are docked alongside one of our Canadian naval vessels in Havana, celebrating the Cuban communist dictatorship. This morning, the Minister of National Defense was asked if he had told the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and of course, he denied it.
What the fuck?
Be it
Why are we talking about what's happening in a different country?
Dangerous for the Liberals to honor Cuba, Russia's junior partner, and once again are undermining our relationship and support for Ukraine. So why is the Minister of National Defense using our Navy to cozy up to the communist regime in Cuba with our Russian adversaries?
Because it's his father. You want to Father's Day?
Minister of National Defense.
Oh, baby!
Politicizing the Royal Canadian Navy deployments, but frankly, I'm not. To be very clear, Mr. Speaker, this was a military mission. Along with our American allies, the Canadian Navy and Air Force are tracking the movements and activity of a Russian naval flotilla along the eastern seaboard and into Cuba with our Aurora aircraft in the HMSC Village of Quebec. Upon the advice and at the request of the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Joint Operations Command, I authorized the HMS Cargo to visit Havana. We were well aware that the Russians would be present at the same time, and we planned our mission.
Wow, really? You guys are literally like bad girls clubbing down, being like, "Well, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing going to the party? If you know she's going to the party." Like what? It's like a bunch of 16-year-old girls with bad relationship. Like,
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that auto theft is a growing problem.
maybe put a
and
key
that
on your
organized
fucking car
crime
then.
is always reinventing itself to thwart the tactics
No,
of our
their
police
solution
forces.
to getting their car
Yesterday, our
stolen,
government announced
putting
the
a remote
deployment
shut up.
of a mobile X-ray scanner
I was like,
that can scan cargo containers for stolen vehicles.
this is such.
And the Minister of
advanced,
Public
like,
Safety informed this House of the actions taken by our government to intercept more stolen vehicles and disrupt the organized crime groups behind auto theft. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I thank our colleague for Vaughan Woodbridge for his work on this issue. Of course, for his French as well. The deployment of an X-ray scanner to find stolen vehicles within cargo containers is an important tool for the Canada Border Services Agency in fighting organized crime across the country. When the Conservatives were in power, they cut funding to the agency, cut funding for law enforcement to fight organized crime, and cut services to Canadians. We are doing the opposite. We will protect Canadians.
The honourable member from Edmonton, Strathcona.
It's been 3 years since Kabul fell, and for Afghans, life gets worse every day. Canadians want to help Afghans living under the horrific Taliban rule, but this government is getting in the way. The flawed bill that they passed a year ago, C-41, hasn't been implemented. There's been no guidance and no funding for any Canadian organization. Nothing. As Afghan girls face gender apartheid, as people starve, the incompetence of the Liberals is staggering. Why is the government delaying the much needed aid to save lives?
The Honourable Minister for International Development.
Mr. Speaker, in June of last year, Bill C-41, which created a humanitarian exception as an authorization regime, was passed. This new legislation facilitates Canada's engagement to address humanitarian crisis and advance human rights globally, while also ensuring strong counterterrorism financing provisions. There's no doubt that any delays on such an important matter are frustrating for all of us, but we're hopeful that this will launch in the near future.
The honourable member from Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister once said that he thought NSICOP was well suited to examine foreign interference in Canada's democracy and democratic institutions.
It's so pretty.
But apparently, not anymore. Why the change? Was it an NSICOP report that shed some redacted light on the willing involvement of Liberals guilty of seeking political and financial benefit? Does the Prime Minister still feel that, quote, Canadians need to have faith in their institutions and deserve answers and transparency, end quote? Or has his party's Beijing masters called for a reversal?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague should be careful before he simply makes up stuff in question period and asserts things that he knows are absolutely false. He knows very well, Mr. Speaker, that our government created for the first time ever a committee of parliamentarians to oversee the work of our security agencies. We think it's important for parliamentarians from every political party and the other place to do this important work. We've acted on their recommendations. We thank them for this important contribution to the fight against foreign interference, and to a series of other measures important for assuring the national security of all Canadians.
So brings us to the end of the question period. I wish to draw the attention.
Adios, fellows.
my god, I almost got caught this morning.
Huh?
I almost got caught this morning.
Got caught doing what?
I was going 70 down Brunswick.
Uh-oh. Sometime next week before Derek leaves, is gonna come drive the truck down here.
Pardon?
Before Derek leaves.
Yeah.
Hello.
Before Derek leaves.
Nice little shorts.
Before Derek leaves.
He's gonna come drop off the pickup here.
Something pick up you.
Huh?
I heard something pick up you. That's all.
He's gonna drop the pickup here.
Oh, he's just gonna drop it off.
Yeah.
Oh, woo! I'm in a truck.
Mm-hmm. Your boyfriend loves you.
Indeed. Ah! I did not like that.
Oh. Why not?
Make me make street sounds.
But I love you.
I love you. It's so weird because I feel like I have to be going somewhere at 3,
But you don't.
but I don't. I'm just like, oh, now I feel lost. Doing what we do where it's just like spinning circles. Because I look around, I'm like, I should do this. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I should do laundry. I should fucking do the dishes. I should do my garden. I'm just like, I'm going to do none of those.
Spin and circle.
I'm going to spin circles and sit my ass down. What happened to my jams?
Your what?
My jams. My dinner jams.
It stopped.
Oh, really? Yeah, because my autoplay keeps turning off. Why?
Liam, Cindy. On se voit tantôt pour les plans d'intervention.
Ew, shut the fuck up.
Palestinian flags to show you support the Palestinians
What is that?
as well as you support leg hair. I'm just saying. Anyway, biggest fear was that perception that Saudi oil money would directly or indirectly end up in the hands of their biggest enemy. Instead of disclosing Saudi Arabia's holdings, so this is the level that the U.S. Treasury went to cover up this deal. Instead of disclosing Saudi Arabia's holdings, the Treasury grouped them with 14 other nations, such as Kuwait, the UAE, Nigeria, under the generic heading of oil exporters, a practice that continued for 41 years so that no one could know
Okay, I'm gonna run to
how
the
much
dep and get smokes.
U.S. debt, U.S. bonds,
Checking my
Saudi
red thing.
Arabia.
I have money.
Okay.
I could get a
Oh, sorry, Jacob.
up, Jack?
I'm sorry, Boober.
What? You step on him?
Kind of.
What?
I didn't step on him, but I stepped too close.
Oh.
Sorry.
Boy, Chickable. What's your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Elle's got caught speeding. That's gonna get her off the way. Somewhere?
Hmm?
Elle's got caught speeding.
Yeah, so be careful, please. You know?
She's gonna fucking. Well, they're on their way to go somewhere, obviously. Because they, for sure, like, see my car, assuming would have stopped to pull me over, just by my car. I'm honestly surprised that this has not happened yet.
Not on
But I guess they only are doing it, like, if they know for a fact that. I don't know, because there's, like, a lot of people are having problems with the SAAQ. And with the insurance thing, because all the rich people now who are getting their cars stolen, their insurance companies aren't covering them.
Huh.
But it was the same with the house shit, where people are like, you can't get house insurance anymore. The banks just aren't giving it out, especially if you're renting it, they're not going to give it to you. Which is kind of like, then why, like, how are you making money? But it's like they want to make sure that it's 100%, that they're not going to have to, like, make a big payout. Huh. That ice cream is not as good as I thought it was.
The salted caramel?
Yeah.
It should be, though.
You want some?
Not yet.
I'll make spaghetti when I come back.
Okay.
And meatballs.
Cool.
You okay? Oh, what the fuck?
It's a squirrel. Then we got peanuts. Oh my god, you just jumped.
Who needs help?
It's a new one.
What?
It's a new squirrel.
Brown one? Got brown?
Jump down, yeah.
I don't know where it came from. Shut up. Like, chases one of the other ones around.
You just fucking Superman jumped off the balcony. You open the door. See you soon.
Prepare to depart right away. We have to intercept them and protect the Shinonome 1. It was me. I'm the one who drove Ikata over the edge. I've done something I can never take back. What was Ikata doing on that island? Why was he training to become a shipbuilder? None of that is important now. Funato can be trusted. That's what matters.
Hi.
No peanuts left.
No.
Had to go to the dumpster.
And there is a shortage of peanuts.
There you go. Here, I don't know if you like it. Maybe it was bad too. I don't know what about it.
I think I did like it.
Alright. Hi, Jago. Ends and butts for peanuts and nuts. Then every day would be peanuts and time.
Huh?
Right.
What?
If it's and butts for peanuts and nuts.
It's some butt, peanuts and nuts.
It's and butts, peanuts and nuts.
That's a pizza butt.
Not quite. Alright.
Yeah, not super.
Alright. Yeah. Put your hand down. Maybe. There. Run! Run! Do that.
Hey. Where?
The bunny was laying in the dirt, but I couldn't tell if it was like actually a bunny or not. Run! I couldn't tell if it was a bunny or a giant piece of bark. Because it was like laying down on its belly. I'm joking. What? No, good. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not for you. I think it's for you, it's not for you. Oh. Hey.
What the hell? Is that your show?
What?
Is that your show?
Yeah? Why?
Sounds like people outside fighting.
Oh. Is it still going?
No. Woo! Oh, come on.
Seul Electrolux dispose de la technologie Smart Boost pour l'élimination
Hey, you.
des tâches la plus efficace.
I remember, like in school, what we got was like get under the desk. Are we still there? And then New York. Now, New York, to be fair, they did put out a video on what. To do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What to do in case of a nuclear attack. Yeah.
It was like stay
Yeah.
inside.
It was
That
like stay away from a window.
And pay attention to social media for updates because the internet's still going to be on.
Yes.
Go to TikTok for updates. Well, all right, let's get to this. President Biden will be replaced on the Democratic ticket. We now have confirmation from a member of Congress and an exclusive report from the Daily Mail confirming this news. Biden will be replaced very soon. We're going to get into those details here in a second. But first, the White House in full panic mode, and here's why. Watch.
CNN senior data reporter Harry Etten is with us. So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm, and it simply put has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
And when you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman. Oh my, I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now with black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
Someone in the chat says that's racist.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's neo-racism to tell people
Neo-racism.
that they should believe something because of the color of their skin.
So that's why the White House is in full panic mode. That, among other reasons, trying to censor videos of the president wandering off stage, wandering around fields, falling asleep during world meetings. It's a disaster, absolute disaster. Here is Biden team calling for social media disinformation censorship after the G7 mishap. Now, many of you may have seen this where he sort of meanders around in the field there, and Georgia Maloney has to like come over and corral him back in. Look at the New York Post headline today, Meander in Chief. Biden embarrasses U.S. with confused wanderings at the World Conference. And this wasn't just the only one. It was multiple. And so here was that moment where he just wanders off as these parachutists are coming down. Watch.
Also, last night, awkward moment with President Biden where he was looking very doddery. He was wandering around. He sort of wandered off, and Giorgia Meloni, the Italian premier, had to sort of guide him back to the crowd. It was quite painful viewing. Everyone's putting a slight brave face on it this morning. We've got some more for that for the paper tomorrow. But
wow,
yeah, you can see from that footage yourself. It's this is getting embarrassing now. And you do really wonder how President Biden is going to be able to run an election campaign in October and November for re-election.
He clearly has no clue where he is.
Is that a man he really thinks is going to get through the next 4 years?
No, the answer is no, you won't, and that's what we're going to get to.
Got no idea where he is.
Now, the Biden campaign spokeswoman
Just
says
so
these
sad.
videos are
You're talking about
disinformation.
everything is bad?
So
No, it's
that's fake news that you just saw there. Him just wander.
Quite painful viewing. Everyone's putting a slight brave face on it this morning. We've got some more for that for the paper tomorrow. But yeah, Giorgia Meloni, the Italian premier.
Field there, and Giorgia Meloni has to come over and corral him back in. Look at the New York Post headline today: Meander in chief.
really bad.
Biden embarrasses U.S. with confused wanderings at the World Conference. And this wasn't just the only one. It was multiple. And so here was that moment where he just wanders off as these parachutists are coming down. Watch.
Also, last night, awkward moment with President Biden where he was looking very doddery. He was wandering around. He sort of wandered off, and Giorgia Meloni, the Italian premier, had to sort of guide him back to the crowd. It was quite painful viewing. Everyone's putting a slight brave face on it this morning. We've got some more for that for the paper tomorrow. But yeah, you can see from that footage yourself. It's this is getting embarrassing now. And you do really wonder how President Biden is going to be able to run an election campaign in October and November for re-election. And if he won, is that a man he really thinks is going to get through the next 4 years?
No, the answer is no, you won't.
Like, that's so
what we're gonna get to
sad.
here in a second. Now, the Biden campaign spokeswoman says
so
these
sad.
videos
Like,
are
he clearly does not
disinformation.
know where the fuck he
So
Oh.
That one's cool too,
Yeah.
like a child not sure where everyone is supposed to be putting their attention. So you can see it was kind of Giorgia Meloni to go and guide him, clearly. But
And also, it's technically misinformation because we don't have all the facts. We didn't see what he was looking at. Disinformation is if you've seen the facts, you know them, and you're outright saying that's not true.
Right.
This is misinformation because we don't know. We don't know
It almost-
exactly what he was looking at.
it almost doesn't matter. They had
Right.
planned that all the world leaders were going to interact with this thing, and Biden doesn't understand the plan. That's just doesn't matter what he actually was looking at, even if there was something interesting somewhere else.
So this is what
Like
their campaign
dog
is saying,
training
that
class.
these things are, disinformation, misinformation. But how can you hide this from Saturday night where President Obama has to literally lead Biden off a stage because he doesn't know where to go? And this one went viral over the past few hours. Watch. There they are saying goodbye. Obama walking off. There we go. Let's go. He just stands there. The White House says, and there's Jimmy Kimmel.
Good people, Brandon, Ireland, good workers. My son says, go ahead, we all have various short-term descriptions for your jobs. What's your Congress?
Oh, okay.
Say Joe Jobs.
So Adrian,
That was the punchline.
yeah, I guess
That was the punchline.
that was the punchline of the joke. Adrian Elrod from the Biden campaign explained how this is disinformation. So she went on MSNBC to say, all these videos you're seeing of the president wandering around, stumbling over his words, can't put a sentence together, and the private meetings that people, it's all just, don't worry, it's all just fake news.
Disinformation is alive and well. We have to use surrogates and voices across the country to combat this and make it clear that not only do we not play this game, but to your point, President Biden was out there literally representing America at the G7, saluting our troops, doing what he does as president of the United States. And look, we're going to see more of this. I mean, this is just the reality of campaigning in 2024. So we have to combat that disinformation. We have to hit it hard when it happens. and make it clear that these are dirty
I have
tactics
my
that
green
MAGA
day.
Republicans are using because they can't run on the issues, Lemire. They have to run. They have to use these dirty tactics like this because they are not right with Americans on the issues. So we're going to see more of this. We're going to do what we can to combat it. But it does take the voices of surrogates across the country. It does take the media to call it out. It does take social media platforms where a lot of Americans are getting their information to point it out as well.
Yeah, so you guys have to do your part. You guys have to fight
Blueberry.
disinformation. So when you see President Biden wandering off, you need to go on social media and say, he's not wandering off. He just saw a rabbit jump into the forest.
No, that's exactly what I saw liberals doing just today, saying this did not happen. That's all. Like, here's the video, and it did not happen. I've seen it. And in fact, Colin Rogue, I think is his last name, has a great summary of all of the people who said exactly that. That's gaslighting.
So they're following. They've marshaled their bots. The Biden administration has marshaled their team of liberal social media people to go out there and just
As a
basically say,
surrogate.
as a surrogate. She's like, we need to get our surrogates. And she says the media, MSNBC, you're doing a great job here. You're fighting this, MSNBC. You got to push this out there.
She says this is the reality of running for election. What she's missing there is if you're senile.
Right.
Yes, that is the reality.
And I was going to point out, it's the media and Mark Hamill.
Right. You need Mark Hamill and Jack Black, apparently. over
Yeah,
the
they
past
are
20
both great
over the past-
surrogates.
God.
Well, those at the G7, though, this is the important thing, right? So you can have those videos of him wandering around a field
What about
and
surrogate?
try to combat that disinformation. But it was those that were at the G7 who are interacting with the president. These are officials. And she's labeling it disinformation, but officials who are there know better. Listen.
What's going on? I mean, obviously, most G7 summits are diplomatic sprints. You expect to see the President of the United States, as other world leaders, doing a flurry of meetings. Has he been doing the same thing?
No, he ducked out for dinner last night, and frankly, Jack, I've written my story for the paper tomorrow by telling it to never mind the balance. But my sources, diplomatic sources here, people I've been speaking to say it's worse than I've seen Joe Biden, and he's in a bad way. He's in meetings. Sometimes he's very sharp, sometimes he's very much not. So some worrying developments there, and an exclusive news story. So never mind about it.
Yeah. So, the people that were in private.
No, but it's super sad though, because it's straight up elder abuse.
Private meetings with officials.
To be I don't know.
On the record to the newspaper saying this is the worst thing.
You know, when someone's at that age
Have a conversation with the guy.
that they are not capable. It's like when someone's too drunk. You know when someone's too fucked up, and it's just kind of like to let them keep drinking would be a shitty thing to do. Not like you're obligated, but it's just like if you're not a shitty person, then maybe you should do something and help a brother out.
They're just parading this guy around, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, they're just using it with public statements at this point.
I love talking about
Very
removing
fucked up.
Trump for competency towards the end of his
Very wrong.
presidency, and that was the story. The story now is them working equally as hard, saying he's doing fine. What
I think they loaded him up with drugs.
Spoken in the liberal media about removing him for competency, the way that was
I think they
story
do that with
around the end
everybody.
of the Trump administration.
Well, we now have confirmation that
Even
yes,
there.
President Biden will be replaced on the Democratic ticket before the November election. Congresswoman Luna confirmed to Fox News that this was the case.
With currently what's coming out of the White House, that a lot of people realize that Joe Biden's likely not going to be the nominee, which is from what we're hearing on Capitol Hill. Jesse, Representative Kiley had reported that Kamala Harris actually eyeing a run for California governor because of it.
Right, that's the backup plan. So you are hearing also in D.C. that Joe Biden isn't going to be the Democrat nominee?
Correct. It appears that our colleagues are trying to put guardrails on a 2024 presidential election with President Trump.
So that's unbelievable. And then on the heels of that, the Daily Mail, just about 4 hours ago, reporting that yes, this is going to happen. That Biden will be replaced on the ticket, and how Hillary Clinton, Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer are coming together and will topple the aging president when they do. This is the plan that's been worked on.
So that's That's the group of Democratic kingmakers.
Exactly.
Pelosi, the Clintons, and Chuck Schumer.
And President
And
Obama.
Obama.
And Obama. So the Daily Mail
They
has,
decide, guys, not us.
So-
Nothing
so
with us here.
so the Daily Mail has revealed that if Joe loses in the first debate with Trump, or if his polling numbers keep falling, like they have, it'll take a united front of liberal grandees to make Joe basically throw in the towel, according to the reports. The only people who would force him out would be Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, according to the Daily Mail. It would be one of the four of them collectively. This is Obama, who has no close personal feelings for the Bidens, according to one well-connected Democratic source, flat out ignored the invitation, will not be involved in it.
What?
Strategists theorize, according to the Daily Mail, that Democrats would have to hold a public event to symbolically transfer power from Biden to a new candidate. Absolutely, this would be the case. Like, handing over the baton, basically. And arguably, I think this is really interesting. Nate Silver over at the 538 noted that Biden's average approval rating has reached a new low of 37.4%. And the number one concern among voters is his age, which Silver said was an extremely understandable concern, as Biden acts and looks his age is a huge outlier to ask for the job until he's 86 years old. That's a huge polling factor in this. But here's, I think, the really interesting piece of this is that Atlantic columnist Mark Leibovich basically says and cruelly sort of stamped the president as Ruth Bader Biden. And basically saying that that's a reference, of course, to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who angered a lot of liberals while Obama was president and didn't step down so that he could replace her. What they're saying is that this is his moment to not pull a Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that Biden should step down for the good of the party, hand it over to Gavin Newsom, and allow Kamala Harris then to take over. She'll run for governor of California.
No!
And this will be the move that, according to the Daily Mail and
not
according
her.
to Congressman Luna and other Democratic strategists and sources,
Why wouldn't
they would do
she
this.
step up to run for the presidency? Because they realize that
She's
so
awful.
unpopular.
She's so
awful.
unpopular and totally incompetent. But you can, as we know by being governor of California, you can be incredibly incompetent in California.
Yeah.
And
Could you imagine having to sit through one of her State of the Unions?
Oh, fuck no.
Well,
like this word salad, like
Oh, she's
that would
actually
actually be
worse,
better
though.
because it's scripted, so she'll just read off a teleprompter. It's when she speaks extemporaneously that's almost as bad as President Biden. So, again, President or Gavin Newsom, so Politico has this piece, of course, on Kamala for governor. They have a whole big piece about, she should
so
be the governor
mad.
of California. See all these pieces coming together for the liberal media right now?
I see it.
You see it?
I see what you're laying out for me, my darling.
And then Gavin Newsom wants nothing more, of course, as we pointed out here, than to be president of the United States. He's been saying all of the right things. He's been praising Joe Biden, not insulting him one iota. Here he was on Alex Wagner. We showed you this, but this is like one of the most disgusting displays of like sycophantic behavior. Watch.
Who in their mind would want to run when you have someone of such esteem as our incumbent president of the United States, with a record of accomplishments and a man of character, a man of decency? I'm old school. Talk about loyalty. I'll go to ends of the earth for this guy. I really would.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure you would. Because you're about to become the Democratic nominee, Gavin Newsom. So there you guys go. Gavin
Republicans
Newsom.
in California have been warning about this for a long time, that he is running a shadow candidacy for the president, and they've been watching him and trying to warn us. So for Californians, this may not be a new revelation, but
I don't
for
get it.
the rest of us, we're like, what? We have to, all right, here we go.
Yeah, it's going to happen, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below. We've got a lot more news to get to here on your Monday. We're going to talk about Maine. The state of Maine wants you taxpayers to pay for using drugs. We'll explain this crazy story and a new word that we're going to introduce into your lexicon today that,
It means up your,
yeah.
that's what we're
we'll
going
talk
to do.
about that.
That's why I told you to stop eating.
Yeah, and we've got more news to get to here. We can talk about the Justice Department trying to go after will they go after Merrick Garland, or will he walk away with not getting these Biden audio tapes out? We'll talk about that. But first,
We want to tell you about our friends over at Shopify, because Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell whatever it is you'd like to sell on the internet. And they help you all the way from designing your store to launching your store, and they help with the back end so that you can sell things and receive money. It's super easy. They have around the clock customer support. In fact, the Redacted store
This workout is gonna Gym Shark. We do gym. Comment déjouer les vols électroniques? Les vols concernent souvent les véhicules récents.
The bloated bureaucracy is a big concern for conservatives. They say the federal bureaucratic state has become so huge that it is now a de facto fourth branch of government, and in fact, maybe the most powerful branch. As Paul Strand reports, experts will tell you it's completely unconstitutional.
If there's one thing the founding fathers cared about, it was liberty. And the last thing they would have wanted was an unelected bureaucracy that could steal your property, your rights, and even your freedom.
It's fifth grade civics all over again, right?
Law School Assistant Dean Richard Kelsey says those founding fathers were clear and deliberate about what they'd allow constitutionally.
They took a lot of time trying to figure out how to get this right. Remember, we had the Articles of Confederation first. Didn't work. So we got together, had a constitutional convention, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we make this delicate balance of power.
The founders decided only the politicians in Congress, those closest to and most easily held accountable by the voters, could make the laws that would reign over and even threaten those voters.
They're supposed to make the laws, propose the laws, be answerable to the people, and the president is not a lawmaker. His job is to either say no to this law or yes to this law.
But the unceasing cancerous growth of the executive branch's bureaucratic agencies has upset this careful balance and made unelected bureaucrats super powerful.
They're like a fourth branch of government now, and they are unaccountable. They're unanswerable to the voters, and they can get away with just about anything they want without any consequences.
And that's allowed modern presidents to basically take the law into their own hands. And President Obama has made this his forte, unconstitutional though it may be.
What he's doing now is he's saying, hey, Congress isn't working. It's not doing what I want. I'll go around Congress. Nothing allows him to do that. It's not even being hidden anymore. The president has come right out and said, if the Congress won't act, I will act. And he's doing it through these bureaucracies.
And now they literally wield life and death power over people.
They are issuing regulations often with criminal penalties. That's something only Congress should be able to do. And yet these unelected bureaucrats have the ability now to declare that certain actions will potentially land you in jail. That's how powerful they've become.
And in many cases, to be penalized, you don't even have to know you were guilty of disobeying these regulations, which are now basically a new type of law.
The famous saying is ignorance of the law is no defense. But that's before we started making hundreds of thousands of laws every year. In fact, lawmakers are ignorant of the law, right? If you remember from the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, they said we have to pass it before we know what's in it.
And even though Republicans have begun talking about reining in some of the regulatory agencies, critics warn the power of the bureaucrats has been growing for years. Capitol Hill didn't stop them.
Congress over the years has delegated too much of its power to all of these administrative agencies.
So now you have essentially a shadow government in these federal agencies that is running our country, that's determining how the IRS enforces its tax regulations, how the EPA affects your land and your property and your business.
We are empowering this huge federal government that can restrict our liberties, restrict our freedom, restrict our economic opportunities in this country. And it's almost impossible to fight back against these agencies.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Well, this is an interesting one, if not a little bit of a scary one, because recent investigations done by Radio Canada has revealed what some are calling Canada's shadow government, a group of people that are paid vast amounts of money by the government to develop public policy that is later expanded upon by the government. And this impacts every single Canadian out there, whether it's deciding who should get what benefits and supports from the government, or who's welcomed into Canada, or even how our entire Department of National Defense is managed. Instead of elected representatives and their offices coming up with new policies and making major decisions about Canada, instead these outside consultants, some with close personal ties to our leaders, are making decisions and getting paid hefty amounts to do so. So why don't we talk about who this shadow government is and the major role they've played in Canada's recent decision to welcome 500,000 new Canadians each year, and the lawsuits that many citizens and governments around the world have launched against this group. So let's dive right into the info, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and something new for the channel. If you want all of these sources and links, things I'm looking at, and additional analysis at the end of the week, I'm going to be putting out a newsletter regularly, so you can sign up for that in the first link in the description of this video. It turns out that there is one unique consulting firm that, since the Liberal government came to power, has increased the amount it's paid by the government in special contracts by 30 times, doing a 30x of the amount it's paid. In this group of consultants, McKinsey, one of the largest consulting firms across the entire globe, well, they only got $2.2 million in federal funding during the previous Conservative government, but when the tides changed and it was the Liberals in power, well, since that point, they've received $66 million from the federal government. In McKinsey, this global consulting firm does have ties to the current Canadian government. We even saw the former global director of McKinsey getting appointed to be the ambassador to China for Canada by Trudeau back in 2019. Now, he's since sort of recused himself from this role. About a year ago, he stepped down, but more on that in just a minute. McKinsey was also hired by the US, UK, Germany, and Mexico to help them with their COVID-19 pandemic response, help them decide how they were going to handle all of that. And the same goes for the governments, the provincial governments of Quebec and Ontario, who also hired them for the same reason. But this organization is not without its controversy, and this controversy is global. An investigation by the French Senate accused consulting firms like McKinsey of undermining national sovereignty, and also they've been under investigation in France over tax filings and the awarding of contracts, and whatever role they played in the election of the French president in 2017 and 2022. But one of the largest criticisms of McKinsey, especially as of recently, is the lawsuits filed by a number of different U.S. states claiming that McKinsey played a large role in developing the opioid crisis, resulting in hundreds of thousands of deaths across the U.S. and Canada.
At this peace summit, the Prime Minister spoke out.
How do you think Russia's committing genocide in Ukraine?
That is certainly one of the things that has been talked about.
Justin Trudeau said Russia must be held accountable for taking 20,000 Ukrainian children from their home.
Everyone can agree that taking kids away from their families, trying to erase their language, that's an element of genocide. That's pure colonialism.
Those comments at a conference where more than 900 leaders, representatives, and organizations descended on a Swiss resort to hash out how to end the war.
Moving to peace means acting fast.
Ukraine's president wants more diplomatic buy-in to his peace plan. It demands Moscow withdraw all of its troops. But Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, says he will only end the war if Ukraine surrenders territory. An ultimatum Ukraine rejected. Russia was not invited to these talks.
Russian aggression has to stop.
Canada announced a new $52 million package for Ukraine, including
fucking
to help
traitor.
displaced children, replace damaged energy
Fucking
equipment, and help rebuild.
We are responding to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, not only with a full-scale defense of human life, but also with full-scale diplomacy.
Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs said what his country urgently needs is weapons and air defense. Canada promised an air defense system a year and a half ago that's yet to arrive.
Of course, we wish the system was already in Ukraine because we are in a situation when every piece of air defense matters. It's an issue of death and life.
The summit came up with priorities to move forward on, including nuclear safety, food
Piece of
security,
shit.
and called for all prisoners of war and displaced children to be returned to Ukraine. But with Russia absent at the table, there were no major advancements towards peace talks with Moscow. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Bergenstock, Switzerland.
Oh my god, really? Oh, really? What the fuck? Hmm. Oh. Please, I swear to God.
When you're testifying, and we will start with Dr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Yes, well, I would like to start by expressing my appreciation for the privilege awarded to me to testify here today. It really is an honor to be asked to do so. I'm not here to talk about January 6th or about any particular threat, insurrection, or protest, political or ideological, real or imaginary. I'm here to talk about the already extant and expanding collusion of government and corporation in restricting the individual freedom and autonomy upon which the productive, generous, and stable psyche, economy, and state are themselves necessarily founded. I'll begin my comments, therefore, in general terms to shed light on the mounting problem. There are now 700 million CCTVs in China under the rule of the Communist Party. The system to which those electronic eyes are attached is the most complete state apparatus of surveillance yet imagined, with the ability not only to recognize faces at a distance, but gait itself when facial features are hidden or obscured. Such capability can and will soon be augmented to the point where the movement of eyes themselves, monitored by high-resolution and intelligent cameras, will soon be sufficient to identify any aware and active party. The demented, naive, and prideful engineers who so enthusiastically helped build this system call it Skynet. After the rogue and all-seeing technology that took such a dreadfully wrong turn in the famous science fiction movie Terminator series, featuring artificially intelligent robot intelligences hell-bent on protecting themselves by destroying humanity. The name also references a well-known Chinese phrase describing the reach of the divine itself. The net of heaven is vast, yet it misses nothing, which aptly describes the capabilities of the new state apparatus. The system is integrated with the so-called Chinese social credit system, which awards its involuntary participants with a score indicating their compliance with the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party, allowing for full control of access to everything they possess electronically. Most ominously, they're saved.
Oh, you wasn't Jordan Peterson, I'm so sorry.
Certainly, all modern means of travel, but increasingly is the electronic
I may have
gates
left in the
about
car.
even by walking.
Sorry.
If you're Chinese or a visitor, your access to the world
You take the recycling.
can be reduced to zero if your social
Okay, then Joe.
skills
Jeez.
belong to an arbitrary
Bobby.
minimum. This
allows you purposefully to be shut out of all activities that can be virtualized. And in a rapidly virtualizing world, this increasingly means all activities: driving, shopping, working, eating, finding shelter, even fraternizing with friends and family, as merely being in the presence of someone with a low social credit score means that your own score can be lowered. This has also opened up the opportunity for the government to extract slave-like labor from its citizens, so burdened, as the donation of free work to the state still constitutes one means by which erring Chinese men and women can increase their score and remain part of human society. This is precisely the payment system most desired by the most tyrannical, not the work for me and benefit thereby that constitutes the contractual arrangement undertaken by free and sovereign citizens, but the work for me and I will lift the deprivation I imposed that has always been the leitmotif of the slaver. Why is any of this relevant to people in the West? Because the technology that the Chinese Communist Party employs is an extension of Western technology. Because we already fell prey to the terrible temptation of lockdown employed by that state in the face of hypothetical crisis once, and in the very recent past, because we're walking step by step in the same direction, partly because of the hypothetical convenience of universal and automatic recognition of identity, and partly because any problem whatsoever that now confronts us can easily be used to justify the increasing reach of the security in the state. It is said that Stone Age people first confronted with cameras and the resultant photographs by modern anthropologists objected to having their images captured.
Scaring the
as they
kids.
feared the captivity
Jordan,
of
you scared the kids, Jordan.
It turns out that such fear was prescient. The images that we leave behind while navigating virtual space are such close duplicates of our actual selves that the capture of our essence is at this point all but guaranteed. We all now have our doppelgangers. We all live so much in the virtual world in consequence of our purchasing habits and modes of electronically mediated communication that our very selves have become reducible to a frightening degree. The data, the modern equivalent of our footprint.
There's a celebrity that just happened
Of
to.
our identity.
She turned down a movie, and they fucking made an AI of her fucking voice.
Invisible corporate brokers and still mostly use it to sell us what we so desperately and carelessly and conveniently want. It can also be used to track, monitor, and punish everything we do and say. Behavioral scientists facilitate this process with their reprehensible nudging, the practice of pushing people in a given ideologically determined direction by manipulating invisible incentives behind the scenes. Corporations track purchasing decisions, developing algorithms that with increasing accuracy track our patterns of attention and action, allowing for the prediction of what might next be most enticing, doing so not only to offer us what we want, but to determine and shape what we need. Governments can and are colluding with these corporate agents to develop a picture not only of our actions, but of our thoughts and words, so that deviation from the desired end can be mapped, rewarded, and punished. The development of the digital identity and currency is nothing more than a likely and consequence of such inclinations. And the combination of both can and will facilitate the development of a surveillance state, the scope of which optimistic pessimists of totalitarianism such as George Orwell could scarcely imagine. The new AI systems, which are so rapidly emerging, do nothing but increase this danger, providing for the possibility of a super surveillance whose scope exceeds anything that mere unaugmented humans could imagine, and also making it certain that even the perceptions that in the real world shape our attitudes, conduct, and personality can be manipulated to the degree that we will not even be able to see a reality outside which that has been constructed by the ultimate fascist collusion between gigantic self-interested corporations and paranoid
Happened to me the other day.
anti-human governments.
What are you talking about? That happened to me the other day when I got to be like, I can't stop. So I was window shopping. I couldn't stop on window shopping.
Witness be asked to summarize, please.
I do it on Facebook Market all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can certainly.
If the witness could summarize, we're always a little weird with the
I'll
time.
take 10 more seconds. Sure. with increasing ability to monitor not only the actual attention patterns and behaviors of citizens, but to predict those that are most likely. The persecution of even potential crime becomes ever more likely. If you have nothing to hide, you will have nothing to fear, would be the slogan commented by those most likely to turn to surveillance to protect and control. What was the famous Soviet totalitarian group attributed to Lavrenti Beria, head of the secret police? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Those words were true enough at the time of Stalin's KGB, and the police were secret enough then as well. That's nothing compared to what we can and likely will produce now. Police so secret that we will
10 more seconds then.
depth or comprehensive and subtle activity. Monitoring crime so pervasive that
A lot of
everyone
10 seconds.
of the system will have something to hide or ordinance to be alone.
Quick check from Captain 1 is very efficient. Captain 1 trusting me felt like a huge sigh of relief.
Fuck.
It definitely meant a lot to me. It provides a lot of peace of mind as well.
Look at that full bit
Cool.
in here.
Just step on it. What? What? What?
So what's my third here?
Oh.
Down, son. Oh yeah.
All right, welcome to another edition of your goddamn favorite political podcast, The Curse of Politics. And it is good to have all of you accursed back with us. Us, as always, is me and the bonfire of the profanities, Jenny Byrne and Scott Reed. We've got so much show on the show today.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Aaron O'Toole's breakaway caucus of the unvaccinated, the leadership vacuum that preceded it, and he's just announced his shadow cabinet. Lots of news about the Conservatives today. In fact, our cursed clipping this week is Campbell Clark's piece on O'Toole being treated by his own party. More on the inflation economy. What's going on? We'll try to solve what the politics of inflation are right now and how the government's handling that, can't handle that. We're going to solve the case of the missing mandate letters. Where are they and why the holdup? And of course, the curse of politics doesn't end without Gordon Pinson teeing up our Hey Yous. Scott, Jenny, it's great to see you again this week. How are you?
Hi, great.
Just great. Yeah?
And in your,
You know, you both say that. You know, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, David.
Excuse me, you both say that in a way I don't believe it.
I'm never great, as you know. I'm always dissatisfied. You
And
know,
I'm always great.
Jenny's general disposition is, you know what, things are good. My general disposition is things are about to get really bad.
Well, in terms of cursing, David, I was going to say my sister got me this coffee mug, and it says, "I do not spew profanities. I enunciate them clearly like a lady."
That is excellent. That is excellent. Okay, speaking of profanity, do you guys want to talk about politics or hockey?
No, not hockey.
Politics and that system.
No more
I don't
hockey.
think either one of those subjects is terribly interesting to me.
What do you want to talk about?
Comic books, comic book movies. I went to see The Eternals. I was gravely disappointed. I think MCU might have jumped the shark, but I'm guessing that's a different podcast.
Yes,
It could be. It could be a spin-off. Spin-off, yeah. The Curse of Marvel.
That's right.
Okay, so let's talk politics. The Liberals finally had a caucus meeting yesterday. If there was any kind of showdown or confrontation, everybody's pretty tight-lipped about it. I have no idea what went on in that caucus meeting other than that they elected a caucus chair. And they turned down the Reform Act, unsurprisingly. Anybody got any tidbits? What happened in there?
Oh, you're asking, that's Scott, you go right ahead.
I have no tid or bits, but I'll tell you what I think. What I think is when the Prime Minister was asked, how come you haven't had a caucus and all that stuff? Basically, his answer was, well, caucus isn't a fucking problem for me, man. And I think that there's zero evidence he's wrong. Like, caucus is clearly not a problem for him. I don't know if somebody went to the mic and said I'm dissatisfied about this or that or whatever. I would almost be shocked if that did happen. It would be my honest to God impression. I just don't think that's the kind of caucus these guys have. And as far as I could tell, the PM opened up the doors, gave a speech, caucus cheered. So caucus was just basically a backdrop for the Prime Minister to, grab O'Toole by what's left of his hair and punch him in the face 3 or 4 times, which he did relatively effectively. I'm sorry, that hair thing was cheap. I take it back. Just because my hair is perfect, like Tom Cruise in Color of Money, Vince, that doesn't mean I should make fun of a baldy challenge fellow.
When I talk to Liberal backbenchers, they sound to me like they think they're involved in a different enterprise than the government. It's the weirdest conception of their role. Like it is, it's as if Trudeau and Telford and Freeland are off running the government, and these people know what their jobs are. Their jobs are to show up at their parliamentary rounds, do what they're supposed to do in Parliament, manage their constituency, campaign all the time, and not make trouble. And everybody seems pretty comfortable with that job description.
You talk about that like it's a bad thing. I would have traded my left nut for that.
It's a great thing if you're the executive branch, but I find it unusual. I find it unusual that they think they have so little say and so little stake in what the decision makers are doing.
Yeah, I find it bizarre too, David, and I think that it under Harper, I think was pretty much the same as what it was under you guys. Caucus was a very important dynamic. They were involved in government decisions. We had caucus advisory groups that, of course, didn't get cabinet documents or information, but at least ideas were run through cabinet in terms of how this could affect locally and their constituents, and to bounce ideas off of. So it is a much different structure than what I think governments that preceded them are. I also think it works well for Trudeau. I'm not sure it works well for the Liberal Party generally. I think that this is culturally, it's a change. I think it's culturally on the political party side. I think Trudeau has obviously elevated their game big time in the last in the last 6 years that he's been Prime Minister. I don't think that probably the structure that they have government wise is going to do them any favors in the post Trudeau era.
Well, I think it's a product of almost all of the MPs arriving with Trudeau as leader, and almost none of them predate him. And so they don't know any reality before him, and they think they owe their jobs to him in entirety. And in 2015, they certainly did. And, the party did. So you can't forget that, but it is now 2021.
I think that's right. I think we've said this before, but it's all Michael Ignatius' fault. He burned the party. He was out with a splendiferous new book, as we see on Consolation. I read the 99,000 word excerpt in the essay about his book. He wrote an essay about his book rather than just excerpted in the Globe Mail this weekend. It was hard slogging, drenched in word sauce. But he burned the party to the ground. And it took Trudeau and his brand and his energy and his appeal to rebuild the party. But once it was rebuilt around Trudeau. And as you say, all those MPs come to town. They've got no frame of reference. They've not been in caucus before. They've not been in cabinet before. And they said, look, this is a team effort. This is a shared enterprise. Our fortunes are attached to his fortunes. And off they went. And they didn't have this kind of like, 20 years history of, the Chrétien guys try to like hunt down the Turner guys, and the Turner guys become Martin guys, and the Martin guys. They didn't have any of that kind of stuff. And there's not even this sort of local like MP who goes like the Roger Galloways who go, you know what, I'm just going to piss in everybody's soup because I think it's fun and I'm not getting into cabinet, and that's the way it works. Every party had Roger Galloways, every party had 4 Roger Galloways for 60 years. And, they've just created a different culture. So to Jenny's point, what happens when Trudeau leaves? How does the institution of Trudeau look and sound? And it'll be interesting. But it's not a problem for Trudeau because it ain't a problem.
No, in fact, I think the reason why they took so long to get to a caucus meeting was because of all the pressures that they faced, getting cabinet together, getting staffing together, which I understand to be a big job right now. Of all the pressures that they faced as a government, even vacation, caucus was the least pressure that they faced.
Yeah, but can you not walk and chew gum at the same time? Can you not can you not work behind the scenes to appoint a cabinet and have a caucus meeting as well?
You'd think you could, Jenny. You would think you could, yeah.
Oh my god, please, I fucking hate people for them. Oh my god. Ah! Got
I'm
it.
sure you've heard the system in a situation where the stakes were so high, hundreds of thousands of people would personally profiteer to the tune of millions of dollars. No, I'm thinking you haven't done that.